الأمور بتاعكم ناس بقدوري سلام بتاعتكم ناس بملكية سلام بتاعكم ناس بقدوري سلام بتاعتكم ناس بملكية سلام بتاعكم ناس بأطلع برا سلام بتاعتكم ناس بكونيو كونيو المدينة جوا أجمل مدينة سيارة قومي سريع ودينا حبيبي لقيته يوم في موقفي مشينا سوا لصالة يا كورين حبيبي لقيته يوم في موقفي مشينا سوا لصالة يا كورين المدينة جوا أجمل مدينة سيارة قولي سريع ودينا حبيبي لقيته يوم في موقفي مشينا سوا لصالة يا كورين حبيبي لقيته يوم في موقفي مشينا سوا لصالة يا كورين نلعب سوا ونونس سوا ونلعب سوا يوم الجنوب سوا 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 sawa sawa sawa
سوا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. حينما كنتم وسعد الله صباحكم ونهاركم ومساكم بخير في أرجاء المعمورة الكرة الأرضية. مجازي سبت لانتي مقدم برنامج South Sudan is not a cup of tea. ونحن في الألفية 22 وما زلنا نتحدث ونناقش في قضايا بتهم دولة جنوب السودان، وبالأحرى في قضايا مهمة جدا بتتكلم عن المعدة المستديرة. فالليلة نحن حبينا أن نجي ونناقش في هذا الموضوع مع اثنين من القيادات بتاعنا، اللي هو أخونا رجب مهندس، وهو يعني معروف لدى كل أبناء جنوب السودان في أروقة بتاعة المجتمع المدني. وهيكون معنا إن شاء الله سعادة السفير إيمانويل أجاوين، سكرتير بتاع الصومة، واحد من قيادات بتاعة الراوند تيبل. وإن شاء الله هنناقش هذا الموضوع في فترة بتاعة 3 ساعات، وهنفتح الفرص لكل الناس عشان تجي تسأل الأسئلة بتاعتها. فأي نوع من السؤال اللي انت عندك حبيت تجي تسأله، مرحب بك عشان تسأل الأسئلة بتاعتك من غير أي يعني تحفظ. ده الشيء الرقم واحد دارين نقوله لكل الناس. الشيء الثاني برضو نقول لكم أهلا وسهلا يعني في South Sudan is not a cup of tea. ونحن موجودين في الفيسبوك، شغالين بالبلاتفورم بتاعت The Voice of Kush، لأنه South Sudan is not a cup of tea ما عندنا بلاتفورم في الفيسبوك، لكن طلبنا من الإخوة الموجودين معنا في التيم بتاعت The Voice of Kush عن نستخدم البلاتفورم بتاعت Voice of Kush في الفيسبوك. فنرحب بكم ونقول لكم مرحب بكم كلكم. دائما انتم معانا في فترات كثيرة جدا عشان نناقش قضايا بتاع جنوب السودان، وبالأحرى ما يهمنا القضية الكبرى هي القضية بتاعت المعدة المستديرة اللي هي الراوند تيبل. وقبل ما نمشي قدام زي ما أنا ذكرت في البداية، هيكون معنا إن شاء الله 2 ضيوف، والضيوف بتاعنا هيكون معنا سعادة السفير إيمانويل أجاوين، واحد من قيادات بتاعت الصومة وقائد من قيادات بتاعت الراوند تيبل أسويل. وهيكون معنا أخونا رجب مهندس كمان، لأنه هو من قادات الموجودين بتاعت المجتمع المدني. فنحن نرحب بكل الناس الموجودين معنا ونقول لهم please make share and pin people to come in the room. And also I would like to welcome our sister Pam. Sister Pam, I will give you a mic also to say hi to the audience and to the people, those who are on the stage. Thank you. And then we are waiting for our 2 guests to proceed ahead with this discussion tonight. And our discussion is not going to take more than 3 hours. Thank you.
Presentation of the NCF with Emmanuel Ajawin and our brother Rajab Mohandes. He is the chairman of the National Consensus Forum for the Roundtable Committee for the Roundtable. So please go ahead and share the room and pin more in as we wait for both Brother Rajab and Emmanuel Ajawin. Rajab will join us first, and then after we will continue with Emmanuel Ajawin. And as Brother Mujassir said, if you have questions, once they give the representation, you can come up and ask a question. Your question, we will not be here today for longer than 3 hours. We'll keep this room short and on point. So please share the room. Thank you, Brother Mujassir. We can play maybe music until Brother Rajab or Emmanuel Ajawin join us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Pam, for adding your words also, and also saying hi to our viewers, and also to our citizens, those who are abroad, those who are in diaspora, and those also in South Sudan. And we are saying hi to all of you, especially the people, those who are living in POCs and those who are living in the refugee camps in neighboring countries from South Sudan. We are welcome you all tonight for this discussion that we are going to proceed for 3 hours, no more than that. But above that, I don't know if we are going to play some music to wait our brother Rajab Mohandis to join us. And later on, Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin will join us also so that we can proceed for this discussion tonight. And also, the platform is going to be open for all, those who will to come up to ask any kind of questions without any hesitation. بدون أي مجاملات بدون أي تحفظ. بالله لو أنت عندك أي سؤال تعال فوق ونحن مستعدين أن نخلي السؤال بتاعك يكون يعني مقبول وإن شاء الله هيجاوبوا لك وهنحاول بقدر المستطاع إنه نتفادى سوء التفاهم دائما في النقاشات السياسية وتكون يعني نقاش إن شاء الله مثمر ونقاش مهم جدا حتى نستفيد من بعضنا البعض. So let me just put some music. I don't know, or you have something there also you can add. If it's not, then let me try to find out to find Brother Rajab Mohandis to join us as soon as possible. So, and let me try this one. Yalla. Don't find it. I don't know there. I just get some system shut down a little bit. I'm just fixing it. I will fix it as soon as possible. Then I will play one of the songs to wait Rajab Mohandis to come and join us. Sorry.
Don't be flame, welcome back for the season. Kick back record, police are Edika. The Holy City go tell themselves. And then say, Holy City go tell themselves. yotongo agaram kididi inyi oni kokolo de ai ajodi yotongo agaga kikito inyi ara bari mai asa noidia mire tu idobia kokolo de mutana ai policy go tell them say you better sweat for this life for the future education is the key never lose the key you better be set with this for whatever but never education is the key for the future noidia mire tu idobia all of them put on away and it was a key. Better to your way you're right. Money to your better to your way you're right. Better to your way you're right. Money to your way you're right.
طيب وحتى الآن نحن طبعا منتظرين المفروض رجب مهندس يكون معنا هو رسل لي رسالة إنه هو will join us very fast soon as possible هو بيكون معنا هنا لكن خلي قبل ما ناس رجب مهندس يصلوا وعشان نناقش في هذه القضية خلي أنا أخذ بعض الجوانب السياسية في الرهن السياسي في جنوب السودان في الوضع اللي نحن ماشيين فوقه وبعد ذاك ننتظر التوبيك بتاعتنا من خلال الضيوف بتاعنا يجوا. أنا بستأذن من أختي بام إنه هاخد فرصة بتاعت أدي قراءة سياسية عن الوضع الراهن في جنوب السودان حتى ننتظر سيد السفير إيمانويل جاوين وأخونا رجب مهندس عشان يكونوا معنا في الفترة اللي جاية دي. طيب أول حاجة لو نحن لاحظنا جنوب السودان يعني منذ فترة بتاعت 2011 بعد الفترة بتاعت الاستقلال هذه الدولة الوليدة التي تسمى بجنوب السودان مرت بمراحل يعني ممكن تقول مراحل متطورة نحو النمو يعني في التنمية الذاتية بتاعت الأفراد المعينين. لكن لو انت لاحظت التنمية كانت جاية من اتجاه واحد. هذه التنمية جاية من اتجاه واحد. المعاملات المالية والمعاملات السياسية اللي موجودة في جنوب السودان كويس كانت دائما اتجاه واحد. من اتجاه بتاعت الحركة الشعبية اللي كانت ماسكة زموم الأمور بتاعت الدولة وحتى الآن طبعا هي ماسكة زموم الأمور بتاعت الدولة. لو لاحظتوا في 2013 بعد اندلاع الحرب كويس اندلاع الحرب في 2013 أنشب جنوب السودان إلى مرحلة خطيرة جدا كويس إلى مرحلة خطيرة جدا. هي مرحلة من؟ مرحلة بتاعت التفكك كويس بتاعت النسيج الاجتماعي في جنوب السودان. أدى هذا التفكك للنسيج الاجتماعي زيادة الكراهية بين أفراد المجتمع في جنوب السودان. لو لاحظنا وقسمنا جنوب السودان إلى 3 أقاليم رئيسية هي الإقليم الاستوائي والإقليم بحر الغزال الكبرى وإقليم على النيل الكبرى، نلقى بأنه حصل نوع من الدربكة الأخلاقية داخل المجتمع الجنوبي. لو انت لاحظت في فترة بتاعت نحن لما كنا في أثناء الحرب هنالك التصاق معين من أبناء جنوب السودان بما بينهم لما كانوا في الشمال ولما كانوا حتى في دول الجوار ولما كانوا في جنوب السودان في أثناء الحرب أو أثناء النضال كويس. كان في تماسك اجتماعي، في تفاهم اجتماعي، في نوع من المودة وفي نوع من الأخلاقيات اللي نحن نعرفها إنه الأخلاقيات المعروفة اللي نحن ورثناها من جدودنا منذ فترة طويلة. لكن بعد اندلاع الحرب في 2013 حصلت الفتنة اللي معروفة اللي خلقته الحركة الشعبية بين سلفا كير ميارديت ونائبه رياك مشار، وأثر هذا فتنة الاجتماعية، أنا بسميها فتنة اجتماعية أخلاقية بحتة جدا في وسط أبناء جنوب السودان. وليه أنا بقول الكلام ده؟ بقول الكلام ده من باب إنه لو أننا لاحظنا اليوم إنه النسيج الاجتماعي في جنوب السودان حصل إلى نوع من الانحيار الأخلاقي، انحيار أخلاقي يعني بطريقة لا يتصورها أي إنسان. نشبت نوع من الكراهية، نشبت نوع من التفكك، ونشبت نوع من ما يسمى بالأخلاقيات الغير حميدة كويس لدى أبناء جنوب السودان لممارسة الطريقة اللي غير أخلاقية في المجتمعات بتاعهم، سواء كان في داخل البيت، سواء كان مع الجيران، سواء كان في داخل المدينة، سواء كان في الولاية نفسها كلها. يبقى حصلت شنو؟ حصلت نوع من ما يسمى الأنانية الذاتية. هذه الذاتية كويس خلقت هذه المشكلة اللي نحن بنشوف الليلة في جنوب السودان. أي زول داير ياكل أخوه بالعربي بتاعنا البسيط ده كويس. أي زول داير يحاول ياكل أخوه، وأي زول داير يحاول إنه يسلط بما وجد في جنوب السودان من ممتلكات، من موارد كويس، وحتى من حيمنة يعني نسميها سواء كانت حيمنة قبلية أو حيمنة أشاعرية أو حيمنة أسرية لما يدور في جنوب السودان من شنو؟ من ممتلكات، سواء كانت ممتلكات في داخل باطن الأرض، أو سواء كانت الممتلكات السطحية، أو سواء كانت الممتلكات النقدية اللي تطلع من شنو؟ من فئة بتاعت البترول كويس اللي نحن بنشوفها في جنوب السودان. دي ودت لمرحلة خطيرة جدا. طيب المرحلة الخطيرة هي شنو؟ لو نحن دايرين نتكلم في الكلام ده، طبعا انا داير اذكر للناس انه نحن يا جماعه الروم بتاعتنا منتظرين رجب مهندس وسعاده السفير ايمانويل اجاوين عشان يجوا يتكلموا بموضوع بتاعت الراوند تيبل، لكن انا قلت ننتهز الفرصه ونتحدث في اشياء واقعيه في جنوب السودان حتى ما هم يعني يصلوا في الكلاب هاوس حتى نبدا النقاش في التوبيك بتاعتنا. طيب لو لاحظنا الان جنوب السودان في مأزق سياسي، في مأزق اجتماعي، في مأزق اقتصادي، في مأزق غير أخلاقي، في مأزق بتاعت إنه جنوب السودان وصل إلى مرحلة الحافة بتاعت الزاوية المظلمة نحو شنو؟ نحو الهلاك. أنا بسميها نحو الهلاك. ليه؟ لأن جنوب السودان الآن لو لم نتم إنقاذه في الفترة اللي نحن موجودين فيها الآن إذا لم ننقذ جنوب السودان في الفترة اللي نحن موجودين فيها الآن، تفككت جنوب السودان. سوف تتفكك هذه الدولة، سوف تمارس أخلاقيات غير حميدة، ودي بتأثر في داخل جنوب السودان، تأثر كذلك في الإقليم، وتؤثر حتى للمجتمع الدولي. يبقى عشان نجي ونفكر مع بعض نحن كأبناء جنوب السودان، سياسيين غير سياسيين، مدنيين غير مدنيين كويس، كل المجتمع بتاع جنوب السودان بفئاته المختلفة بقبائله المختلفة كويس، أن نفكر بإنقاذ جنوب السودان من الحلاك اللي نحن ماشيين فوقه. ده لابد أن يكون، ولابد أن نصل إلى مرحلة بتاع ما يسمى بنكران الذات كويس، لأنه نحن لو لاحظنا الحركة الشعبية الآن هي لن تنكر ذاتها، إنما هي عندها روح بتاعت الأنانية، روح بتاعت السيطرة، روح بتاعت الدكتاتورية، روح بتاعت تشتيت أبناء جنوب السودان نحو شنو؟ الدول الجوار ونحو المهجر، ولا يهمهم شيء، إنما يهمهم بطونهم. هذه هي أهدافهم كويس. يفكرون عن بطونهم، يفكرون عن أسرهم الخاصة، يفكرون أن الأملاك الشخصية، يمتلكون كل هذه الأشياء، لكن لم يفكرون بدراسة جدوى مخططة نحو مستقبل مشرق لجنوب السودان بكل قبائلها المختلفة، بكل فئاتها المختلفة، سواء كان رجالا نساء أطفال شيوخ وشيخات، سواء كانوا طلاب أو غير طلاب، زراع غير زراع. كل هذه الفئات الموجودة في جنوب السودان، الحركة الشعبية الموجودة الآن دي لم تنظر إلى هؤلاء الناس، لم تفكر لأبناء جنوب السودان، لكن هي تفكر لغايتها الشخصية. طيب السؤال الذي يطرح نفسه الآن، إذا نحن وصلنا لهذه المرحلة الخطيرة، وأنا ما زلت منتظر رجب مهندس يجي سعاده السفير ايمانويل يجي، اذا سالنا سؤال، طيب ما في كان سؤال هنا ده بقول له شنو ده؟ التلاميذ لما سالوا المسيح، مش سالوا المسيح لكن سالوا نفوسهم في يوم ال50 لو انتم متذكرين، بالنسبه للناس المسيحيين والناس الغير مسيحيين اللي بيعرفون عن الكتاب المقدس ويعرفون عن الدين، في يوم ال50 كويس، وعند امتلأ الروح القدس للتلاميذ وبدوا يتكلمون بألسنة مختلفة ويبشرون كويس الأرض بألسنة مختلفة، راحوا الناس قالوا هؤلاء سكارى، قالوا هؤلاء سكارى، لا يمكن أن يعقل بأن هؤلاء الناس يتكلمون لغات مختلفة. كويس، فالسؤال ده الليلة نحن نسأل أنفسنا بأنه نحن في جنوب السودان وصلنا لمرحلة بتاعت نحن ماشيين إلى الظلم. هذه الظلمة لابد أن يكون هنالك فئات، يكون هنالك ناس عندهم الرشد السياسي، يكون ناس عندهم الرشد الاجتماعي، أن يكون هنالك ناس عندهم نكران الذات، حبهم لهذا الوطن، لإنقاذ هذا الوطن. فيبقى أتت الحركة الشعبية بهذه الظلمة، لكن المعارضة الموجودة الآن في الخارج كويس بفئات المختلفة والمجتمع المدني الموجود في الخارج نظر بأن جنوب السودان لابد أن يتم إنقاذه بما يسمى بالمعدة المستديرة. هذه المعدة المستديرة بمعناها نحن كأبناء جنوب السودان لابد أن نجلس سويا، نجلس سويا في مكان معين، نتفاكر لحل القضايا الرئيسية في جنوب السودان أو القضايا الجذرية في جنوب السودان. وهذه القضايا اللي يعني احنا قاعدين نفكرها كقضايا أساسية رئيسية كجذور المشكلة في جنوب السودان لابد أن يكون هنالك حلول لها. طيب الحلول لم تأتي بشخص واحد، الحلول لم تأتي بشخصين، الحلول لم تأتي بشنو بحزب سياسي، الحلول لم تأتي بحركات سياسية أو حركات مسلحة، الحلول لم تأتي بالمجتمع المدني فقط، الحلول لم تأتي بالحكومة أو النظام الموجود في جوبا، الحلول تأتي بميثاق معين لكل أبناء جنوب السودان بفئات المختلفة، بفئات المختلفة. وعندما نتكلم عن جنوب السودان نتكلم عن الوطن، وعندما نتكلم للوطن نتكلم عن الواجبات والحقوق، وهذه الحقوق والواجبات التي نتكلم فيها ليس هنالك دعوة أن ندعى أنفسنا أو يدعونا لكي ننضم لنقاش سياسي أو نقاش اجتماعي أو نقاش فكري لحل قضايا بتاع جنوب السودان. يبقى لابد أن نلم شملنا، نلم يدنا مع بعض ونجلس في هذه المعدة المستديرة التي نادى به الحركات المختلفة الموجودة في الخارج التي لم توقع سلام 2018، لنجلس معهم مع بعضنا البعض ونتفاكر لحل هذه القضية العالقة في جنوب السودان من 2013. فهل نحن كويس قادرين لذلك؟ نعم نحن قادرين لذلك. المشكلة وين يعني؟ في مشكلة وين اللي بيخلينا نحن كأبناء جنوب السودان لم نجلس في هذه القضية؟ هنالك كويس قنوات سياسية، هنالك قنوات اجتماعية، هنالك قنوات يعني فكرية كويس أتت بمختلف الزوايا المختلفة في جنوب السودان، تدعى أبناء جنوب السودان للجلوس في معدة مستديرة. هذه المعدة المستديرة لا يكون هنالك شيفا، ما في زول هيكون رئيس، ما في زول هيكون مثلا أنا الغايب، الناس دي كلها تكون سواسوة مثل أسنان المشط، هيكونوا سواسوة مثل أسنان المشط لياتوا بقرار واحد موحد، وهذه القرارات كويس تكون نابعة من أبناء وطن واحد نحو مستقبل مشرق أو آفاق مستقبل مشرق لجنوب السودان. ليه؟ لأنه نحن وصلنا إلى مرحلة خطيرة جدا، هذه المرحلة الخطيرة جدا لابد أن ننقذ جنوب السودان. كويس؟ طيب الناس ما ممكن تتفاكر وتقول يا جماعة إنقاذ جنوب السودان دي قاموا بها ناس معينين لإنقاذ جنوب السودان. فنحن سوف نقيف 10 أميال أو 20 ميلا للخلف وننظر لهؤلاء الناس أن يفعلوا كما يشاءوا. نو، دي ما هي الفكرة. أنت مهم، أهميتك مهمة، قدراتك الفكرية ومعرفتك الفكرية مهمة، أن تجلس في هذه المعدة التي تسمى المعدة المستديرة، أن تجي بأفكارك المختلفة. نختلف في الرأي، لكن سوف نصير يوما ما أن نختلف في الرأي ويكون رأينا مثلا متساوي في بعض الجهات، مختلفين في بعض الجهات، لكن نخش لمرحلة ما يسمى مرحلة المساومة السياسية، سواء كان مساومة سياسية أو مساومة اجتماعية أو هنالك ما يسمى بالتنازل الفكري أو التنازل الاجتماعي، لأن احنا بنشوفه مهمة لحل القضايا الرئيسية. يبقى نحن كلنا أبناء جنوب السودان مدعون دعوة خالدة. هذه الدعوة الخالدة، هذه الدعوة الفكرية، هذه الدعوة الوطنية، أن نجلس بعضنا البعض ونتفاكر ونتدارس حتى نخرج بميثاق سياسي، ميثاق اجتماعي، ميثاق فكري، ميثاق بتاعت مجتمع مدني، ميثاق بتاعت المجتمع النسائي، ميثاق بتاعت مجتمع بتاعت الشباب، وميثاق بتاعت مجتمع دولي، أن ننقذ هذه الدولة التي تسمى حفيفة الأجنحة جنوب السودان التي ولدت في 2011. فلماذا السؤال الذي يطرح نفسه، لماذا كويس نتجاهل؟ لماذا نتجاهل المعدة المستديرة؟ ولماذا نرفض المعدة المستديرة؟ Sister Pam, I think Rajab Mohandis, he said he cannot access. I don't know what is going on. Who is that? Pam. Somebody is writing me something. I don't know who is that, and I called somebody else. But are you there? Rajab Mohandis said he's not ready. He cannot access. Ana ma arif kalam de kif. So let's try to find him in. Ana ma arif. They got istagdam ya to let me find out. Ana, somebody is writing me something, and I'm okay. Sister Pam, I pin him in, but I don't know how he cannot come inside. Yeah, I cannot hear you anyway, but hello?
Yes, we can hear.
I hear you. Some people are keeping writing a lot of message and mix my head up.
Don't worry about the messages. Just I sent you a link, so please forward that link to him. Also, Brother Dominic, I sent you that link. Forward the link to Brother Rajab.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Pam. So I will try to do that now. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, I see this. Anyway, I already forward for him, and we try to find him inshallah. Who are guy? He's struggling anyway. Sorry, Nasal Gadin istamawlena tihit. Nihna, we are trying all our best for Rajab Muhandis to join us. Please, الزول في فيسبوك اللي اسمه رينا ولا رينا ولا شنو ده, please don't try to do that because you are blocking the system, please. Thank you, please. Okay. Let me try to call this guy. Rajab.
Yes.
I send you a link. Just press that link and it will bring you direct in South Sudan. It's not a cup of tea.
I clicked on the link, but it's telling me that the room is not available now.
No, the link what I send you just right now.
The one on WhatsApp, right?
Yeah. And also I pinned you. I pinned you also in the room, but I don't know how comes you cannot join us.
That's I don't even see this guy. I mean, Dominic also pinned me, but I'm unable to see all that.
All right, let me find out. Let me find out. Are you using which one? Which one? Rajab Muhandis, is this one you were using?
Yes.
Okay, I try. Let me try again. I don't know what is going on. Okay.
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 Brother Mutasif, are you there?
I'm just sorry, Sister Pam, I'm just
we cannot hear you if you're speaking.
Hello?
Yes.
Rajab, press that link,
yes,
and please. press the link and you should be here normally.
Yeah, when I press the link, it gives me what I shared with you on WhatsApp saying the room is not available now.
Okay, let me pin you now. Look to your phone. I pin you now. This Rajab. Is it Rajab? Let me just find out. Rajab Muhandis. Let me see which one. No, you are not longer there. I don't know why. Yeah, I pinned you now. I pinned you. Just look to your phone up and click on the place where his pinned is. You look there. Mujazif is pinning you in South Sudan. It's not a cup of tea.
Okay.
Try to just look to your phone up and the place of pinning, then you come in. Normally you have been even a host, you should be here. It's not working?
No, it's not.
Okay, look, I'm making sharing. I share the club. Wait, let me share the clubhouse. Let me share for you. I don't know how. Do you know my Facebook?
Mujazif, let me check.
Let me just invite you again. Let me say it, invite. Let me set invite, Rajab. Just wait. Now I invite you. You don't see my invitation?
I don't see your invitation, my brother.
Okay.
This has never happened, and it has always been easy.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on with that.
Okay, I couldn't hear you there for a minute. I don't know. Brother Rajab used to follow me, so I can't look him up in the message. So either he blocked me accidentally or the other way around. So let me go down and then see if he can come in. Otherwise, he can still come in then bring me back up and I'll put you down for him to be able to come in. Either he blocked one of us accidentally or one of us blocked him accidentally. So that's the only solution right now.
Rajab, did you block one of us?
He's not here, so he cannot hear you. So just let me go down and bring me, see if he can come in.
Okay.
All right.
So put me down then. Let me bring him up. Rajab. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So now you are here. All right. I think there is some issue. Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Okay. So now,
Brother Rajab, can you check if you possibly blocked me accidentally or something?
I have no idea, but you're here as well, right? I think.
No, I had to go. I had to go down in order for you to access the room. So sometimes it could happen accidentally.
I'm not so sure. I'm following you actually. Let's sort this out later now.
anyway,
Okay.
we can do this later. I will let Sister Pam to start the room, and then we will we'll resolve that issue later on. So Sister Pam, can you go ahead and also welcome Brother Rajab, and then we proceed to our topic. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Mujassib. So thank you everyone for being patient with us while we sort this out. Brother Rajab, welcome to South Sudan is Not a Cup of Tea. Today is the representation with Brother Rajab. He is the chairman of the National Consensus Forum Committee for the Round Table. So he's going to give us a little representation about what they do in the NCF committee. And later on, Emmanuel Jawin will join us as well. So welcome, Brother Rajab, and we apologize for the misunderstanding or whatever it is that's going on. So we're glad you are here.
Yes, thank you very much, Sister Pam, for the invitation. Thank you, Mujazif, for convening this. And my greetings to all the brothers and sisters, fellow citizens in attendance. It's an honor to discuss this important subject with all of you. And I want to believe that we have been discussing this already for the past few weeks. And so there is not so much that is new that I'm bringing for now, but I will go through an overview of the Roundtable Conference and maybe specifically what we're doing at the Committee for the Roundtable Conference, and then maybe also share some few other experiences, but most importantly, respond to questions and comments if they will be there. If you are set for me to start, because we are late already, I will proceed. And I would like to start by, of course, introducing myself as a co-founder and an active member of the People's Coalition for Civil Action, a pro-democracy and civil rights movement. Of course, I am a member as well of the National Consensus Forum, and I've been a long-serving civil society activist in South Sudan. So I speak here as a civil society member, but most importantly, as a member of the National Consensus Forum. So it's important to start with what the Roundtable Conference is all about. These are things we have discussed earlier in the past few weeks, and so as a kind of a reminder, the Roundtable Conference is a proposed all-inclusive South Sudanese-led dialogue which is intended to build consensus on a new political dispensation in South Sudan. The idea was jointly conceptualized by the People's Coalition for Civil Action and the non-signatories, this non-signatory South Sudanese group, which used to be SOMA, but now it is the non-signatory group. And the idea is being developed under the umbrella of the National Consensus Forum. I have received questions asking what's the difference between the Roundtable Conference and the National Consensus Forum. A definite answer is that the Roundtable Conference, which I refer to as RTC, is a program. It's a program, it's a dialogue program, while NCF, which is the National Consensus Forum, is an institution, is a forum, is a platform. So the National Consensus Forum is a multi-stakeholder platform for South Sudanese to build consensus on a new political dispensation in our country. Now, why did we come up with this idea? Why did this idea come up? This idea emerged as a response to the question of what alternative do we have? Because we had said that South Sudan is not ready for credible democratic elections, and an extension of the transitional period of the revitalized agreement is unwarranted, undeserved, and therefore both would not help to take the country forward. Obviously, from all indicators, the parties were not going to conduct elections. If they did, and these elections were supposed to be conducted in a couple of weeks from now, based on the schedule of the transitional period of the agreement. It was supposed to be on the 22nd of next month. And we knew that they were not going to do that. They were not prepared, and they were not even willing to do it. And so the idea they had was to do an extension of the transitional period. And on that note, we challenged this position, and as a response to the question of if we're not going for elections, and when we do not agree that an extension of the transitional period would provide anything new or something new for the country, so what else do we do? And so the idea was that there should be a roundtable conference, a form of a political dialogue that brings together South Sudanese to decide on the way forward for the country, because we are stuck in a transition that is not viable and that is not delivering the intended objectives of the peace agreement. So with this roundtable conference, what do we intend to achieve as South Sudanese? Now, first, it's expected that this program would enable South Sudanese to unite around a common vision for the country. Most of our debates, for those who have been following, have been, projecting an image that we have divided opinions for the country. So there's no unified vision that would bring us together, the different nationalities in the country, into a nation of nationalities. And so an important aspect of the Roundtable Conference is to produce a common vision for South Sudan. And then it is also expected that it would lead to an agreement to end all forms of violent conflicts and set the country for a durable peace. We are aware that because of dissatisfaction with the way the country is moving, with the zero-sum political game from the political actors, people do not have much options. When you are frustrated and there's nowhere you get justice, you end up in the bush to find ways to get justice and so forth, or to contribute to see a change in the country. So by bringing everyone, all South Sudanese stakeholders, to a negotiating table where people discuss these issues and build consensus, it is expected that this would help us to move away from this multiple crisis into a new political dispensation. And of course, we are not contented with the transitional period that is running, because it has produced a political establishment that is completely unable and also unwilling to deliver peace in South Sudan. And so it is expected that this roundtable conference will help us build consensus on a new transitional arrangement. And there are suggestions, as you might have heard, of a technocratic government that would be led by people who are not members of active partisan political organizations, to give chance for a transition that would be viable, that would stabilize the country and prepare the country for credible democratic elections. So a transitional arrangement is something that is expected to be discussed in the roundtable conference. We also still have divided opinions on the governance framework for South Sudan. Well, there are many suggestions that we go for parliamentary system, we go for what do we call it? A federal system. We break the country into different units or different independent countries and so forth. So the roundtable conference is also expected that we would have an agreement on a new governance framework in the country, and a framework that would also be set, built on the basis of a new constitution. It is also a program or a dialogue process that would help to develop a roadmap for a permanent peace or durable peace, and then help the country to exit from this fragility in its different forms, and build political and stable political and economic plans or programs for the country. And then we expect that this program, the roundtable conference, would help us also reach an agreement on constitutional matters. So these are ideas that are expected to emerge as outcomes of the roundtable conference. Now, most of these are all suggestions in a way, and we expect to continue building these ideas even until the roundtable conference commences. So who will participate? And this is one important question that we have been raising all around, and we find this in the clubhouses. First, this program or this national roundtable conference is expected to be an open and all-inclusive process that provides adequate opportunity for South Sudanese in all their diversities to be able to contribute or participate. So in that regard, we're looking at our chiefs and traditional leaders. We're looking at women, youth, and political parties, both in government and in opposition, the military and the organized forces, armed resistance groups, civil society in their diversity, the media, business community, people with special needs or disabilities, faith-based organizations, teachers, professors, or farmers, cattle keepers, internally displaced persons, refugees, our South Sudanese in diaspora, and so on. So this is meant to provide an opportunity for us really to sit among ourselves and discuss where things went wrong and how do we make things better for our collective survival. So those are things we expect to see. That those are categories of people we expect to participate in the roundtable conference. Now, initially it was suggested that this should take place by December. So hopefully it may be between December and ideally, as a response to the issue of the transitional arrangement, it is expected to take place before the transitional period ends and to be finalized before that, so that we have a clear alternative. And so the whole arrangement is being developed. the roundtable conference framework is being developed in 3 ways. We have 3 committees. First, there's a committee that is working on what we call the National Consensus Statement, a statement that defines why we intend to hold the roundtable conference. And then the second is a statement on a proposed kind of a transitional roadmap, a roadmap that would take us from the current transition to a stable political dispensation, a new political dispensation. And the third framework or document that is being developed is on the roundtable conference. Now, providing details of this roundtable conference, what it is, what is meant to look like, who will participate, also proposals on where the roundtable conference will take place. In an ideal situation, if South Sudan was not the way it is, this is a national process that should take place on our soil, on the South Sudanese soil, which means within South Sudan. But given the fact that South Sudan is in crisis, the political and security environments would not allow for open and free conversation of citizens, especially on critical matters of the nation, on issues of safety and so forth. It becomes now important that this national process should have to take place outside South Sudan, in a place that participants would trust would be safe for them, and also free enough for them to participate without restrictions and intimidations and threat to their lives. So those are ideas that are emerging on this. I know there are lots of questions really that have not been answered, and even if they are answered, maybe people still raise them, and I would be happy to provide more time for us to receive those questions and comments. But we use these conversations, these discussions on the roundtable conference to also get opinion of the public, the South Sudanese public, to help us build this idea and make it more effective. There is no point in holding a roundtable conference, spending the time of so many citizens, maybe in their hundreds or more, and at the end of the whole thing, we don't achieve much, and it doesn't contribute to a change in the situation in the country. And so we intend that this idea should work well, should produce kind of a result that we intend to see, but also if not for limitations in security and also time factor, this arrangement would have allowed for more direct consultations with citizens to get their views on our internal, important national matters. And so it is an idea that is in progress, and I would like to get to briefly look at some lessons that we are also learning from with regard to roundtable conferences or national dialogues, which are similar ideas that happened in other places. And with that, I want to particularly reflect on a comparative analysis of 17 cases of roundtable conferences or some level of the mass national dialogues, which were held between 1990 and 2014. And this analysis was done by the Inclusive Peace and Transition Initiative at the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies in Geneva. I see a lot of lessons that we can learn from this in terms of why such conferences or dialogues are organized, who actually initiates or organizes them, and where they find challenges and also issues of participation and so forth. Now, first, roundtable conferences based on the ideas of the Inclusive Peace and Transition Initiative these are instruments to resolve political crises and pave the way for political transitions and sustainable peace. Now, they usually happen in situations where there are transitional issues. For example, if there's a popular uprising in a country and an established authority resigns, and therefore you have a gap, people would choose to hold a roundtable conference to decide the fate of the country, the future of the country. It also happens in a situation of war and armed conflicts, where progress is stalled, and so people would agree to sit and negotiate or discuss and reach consensus on how they move the country forward. According to the Institute of Peace and Transitional Initiative, roundtable conferences also happen sometimes as a result of peace agreements that mandate them, that at the end of the peace agreement or in the process of the peace agreement, there should be either a dialogue or a roundtable conference for people to discuss and agree on critical issues of the nation. Sometimes it happens in a place where political elites, kind of hijack the state, and so they run the state in their own interest and create inclusive exclusive state institutions or state institutions that exclude majority of the population. Citizens do not benefit from the state arrangements or governance arrangements, and so there would be agitation for an arrangement that responds to the needs of all citizens. So in that way, roundtable conferences or dialogues are organized. Now, who usually pushes for such dialogues? And this is meant, and I bring this analysis, it is meant to respond to some of the questions that we always get. For example, who mandated you to conduct this? Now, this comparative analysis says usually you find in some situations governments or transitional governments call for roundtable conferences to get citizens to provide more broad-based views on national matters. And then it could also be a combination, either government or armed groups also do that. Say, instead of causing more bloodshed, let us have a kind of a comprehensive discussion on the future or the fate of our country. It is also pushed by citizens and social movements. Citizens and social movements sometimes, after realizing that state of affairs in the country are not right, they could also push for roundtable conferences or dialogues to get to for citizens to decide on the fate of the country. Sometimes this is also done by mediators. If there is a mediation process in the country, mediators could also ask that citizens should go for that. And then sometimes regional organizations. We are a member of regional blocs. At times in some countries, regional blocs do that. Now, what are usually the mandates of some of these roundtable conferences? This comparative analysis of 17 roundtable conferences or dialogues that happened before provide like 3 mandates or critical objectives that most of those roundtable conferences were meant to address. One is the issue of political reform, aiming to improve the current political system and initiate democratization. So a roundtable conference would be entrusted with that mandate to do political reform. Another one is peacemaking, that is aimed at ending violence, preventing further escalation of armed conflicts, ease mounting tensions, and foster a culture of dialogue. Was on constitution making, that roundtable conferences or dialogues would be entrusted or mandated to inform the process of drafting or amending a national constitution. So if you look at our situation, we need a political transformation. We need, of course, honestly, our mandate would cover all these three: political transformation, peacemaking, and also discussions on constitutional matters. And then, how many people in these 17 dialogues that were analyzed, how many people participated? And so the analysis indicated that it always depends, first of all, on the setting, on the context of each country, but the number ranges from less than 100 to thousands. In the DRC, for example, they had a roundtable conference that had 362 participants. In Yemen, for those of you who have followed the Yemen dialogue, they had 565 participants. Nepal had 601. Mali had 1,000, between 1,000 and 1,500. Afghanistan had about 1,551. And Djibouti had the largest number of participants or delegates, about 3,000. So it can be anything in between, in less than 100 or in a couple of thousands. So this has happened in other places. So in our case, we are likely to have a number that falls in between that. Now, there are also criteria, and the study looked at criteria for selection of participants, which is important. And it mentioned that selections of participants were done on 4 bases, majorly. One is socio-democratic factors, that participants are selected on the basis of ethnicity, gender, generational differences, and also geographic locations. The second is organizational membership, that you could be a member of an organization, for example, a political party or a government institution, or the military or civil society, NGOs, faith-based organizations, professional associations, and also non-state actors or armed groups and business community. So these are members of organizations that could be identified and selected for participation. So participation is either on a socio-demographic basis or organizational basis. It can also be on merit. Like this applies to individuals with special professional skills that could be invited, or people with reputation. In the case of South Sudan, at some point we had the reference reference to prominent or eminent personalities. And then the fourth is selection of criteria based on strategic or pragmatic considerations. And this would involve things like decision makers or individuals in positions of influence, or even individuals who are known to be spoilers. If the roundtable conference is going to deliver an outcome that would help to provide an effective transitional arrangement, and you know that there are individuals or groups that would be spoilers, you get them to the roundtable conference so that they become part of the change and they do not act as spoilers to the change. And finally, it can be a mix of all these. So you can select people based on the mix of all these. And this is likely to apply in our case, that we would use variety of criteria to ensure that we get, first of all, as many people as possible, but also people that would represent, or delegates that would represent a broad spectrum of our society. And then the next thing I would look at is in terms of decision making, our decisions made in this. And those are important aspects that we should be looking at as we move towards this roundtable conference. The first is possibility of decision making in plenary. It can also be working groups. It can also be decision-making committees that would be established to take decisions for the process. And so nothing is concretized with regard to our own arrangements, the roundtable conference we're working on. but we will be learning from some of these experiences, most of which were from the African continent. Now, there are risks, obviously, that sometimes national roundtable conferences or national dialogues may not be implemented. From the 17 that were analyzed over the period that I mentioned earlier, it appeared like about 41% of them, the roundtable conferences, reached agreements and also implemented the agreements. Only 41%. Now, about 29% reached agreements, but those agreements were never implemented. With 12% of them, agreements were reached and partially implemented. For 18% of all those, agreements were not reached and also not implemented. So the roundtable conference does not come as a magic solution, but it is an attempt to provide a solution. And so the success of the roundtable conference depends on the effectiveness of the level of organization and also the contributions that will come from the delegates in the process. Finally, learning from the past in order to also improve on what we are doing, there are constraints, enabling and constraining factors to successful roundtable conference. One is support or resistance of elites. The elites can be in different fashions, and their support or resistance can affect the smooth running of a roundtable conference like this. The second is public support or public frustration. When the public decides not to participate or the public decides to support it, it will determine the outcome of the roundtable conference. Influence of external actors may also affect, especially in a way that if a national process like this is completely handed to external actors, and those external actors have vested interests in the country, they can also affect the process of the dialogue. And so, looking at what we're doing, we believe that our process is a South Sudanese-led process, and therefore we would have more voice as South Sudanese in the entire process in order to safeguard it from external influences. That does not mean we do not need external actors, maybe as witnesses and to support, but it means that we should always be in charge of driving our own agenda. Sometimes in situations where culture of dialogue is not prominent, that would also affect as an enabling or constraining factor. There's also experiences of past agreements. In our case in South Sudan, people are so frustrated that so many agreements have been signed but not implemented, including the current RRCs. And that also partly explains why people are a bit hesitant and others are raising reservations, like some of our colleagues and friends, especially our brothers in the UCC, that if the government is to participate, the government has a very bad record of implementation of outcomes of agreements or discussions like that. And so these past experiences may have an impact, like if this is going to be handed to the government, which is something we will learn from. If the whole thing is produced, the idea of having a transitional arrangement not led by the same political establishment is important, because we have known some of these political actors are not good at implementation of the outcomes of dialogues. And then the issue of violence could also affect. Violence acts in most cases as a constraining factor, because it limits the ability of the country to effectively deliver on its programs. Issues of representation, the number of participants, and the selection also affects how the whole thing will proceed. And therefore, these are things we would look at very carefully. Decision-making procedures to ensure that individuals who participate do not feel their decisions are not considered. I mean, their opinions are not considered. and that would undermine the whole process. It was also important that the facilitator plays a role, and all of these have not been decided, but the choice of those who will facilitate the meeting, whether South Sudanese or any individuals from outside South Sudan, it is important that the choice of facilitators would be made very carefully. The issue of the duration would also play a role. If we have important national matters and we spend only 2 days, we would not achieve the intended objectives. And so these are quite a number of things that stand on the way, and that we're looking at, and will be designing this upcoming roundtable conference with care to ensure that we incorporate the voices we are getting from the public, but also ensure that we learn lessons from similar processes that occurred before. As I said earlier, this is not meant to be so much of a lecture, but an opportunity for us to interact and also, in fact, most importantly, hear from the participants, the audience. I would leave it at this, and thank you very much, and happy to see Ambassador Emmanuel on board.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. And we'd like to acknowledge and welcome Ambassador Emmanuel to the audience, the chairman of the Indian Patriotic Front and the General Secretary for SOMA. Welcome to South Sudan is not a cup of tea. Brother Rajab, thank you so much for your information. It was very informative. You actually asked a lot of the questions that I have for you. You answered it as you gave your representation. However, before I give the mic back to Brother Mujasif, there is a question in the comment section from our sister, Amor, and her question is, who is going to be funding the roundtable, or who is funding the roundtable? This question is for you, Brother Rajab.
Okay, thank you very much for this question, sister. Well, as of now, there is no funder that has fully committed to fund the process. However, we have reached out to some of our partners, institutions that have identified themselves as champions of similar activities, institutions that we've engaged with before, and they have expressed willingness to support the process. A number of them have expressed interest, willingness to provide support to this. And discussions are still ongoing on this. And I think once we produce some of the documents, they would form an important basis for finalizing decisions to support these processes. And I would actually extend an invitation to any individual or groups that have resources to support from among South Sudanese to be to show up, because we can mobilize internally and also externally. But so far, we believe that resources will come from international actors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Rajab. So far, has the international community been supportive of the roundtable?
Yes, the international community has been supportive of the roundtable conference. At this point, obviously, on a personal note, I'll not get to naming some of these actors for now. I know Ambassador Emmanuel will speak to that, especially in their last meeting in Rome with a number of these actors. But they are positive about the roundtable conference. They are also positive for the fact that the political parties and the civic groups are engaging in these conversations and recommending that the country should hold a roundtable conference to decide the future of South Sudan. That is in itself is very important. The aspect of an inclusive process, an inclusive, peaceful process seems to resonate well with the interests of the international community. And I would say with confidence that they are very supportive. There are a number of countries and also international organizations that are supportive of this idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Rajab. My next question to you is, as someone who actually worked in South Sudan and worked as a civil society leader in the leadership, and also you have seen how our people back home is suffering, and I believe that's the reason why you are in supportive of this roundtable. What do you have to say to some of our South Sudanese who are opposing the government, and also actively speaking about the suffering of our people back home, but yet they are strongly against the round table or speaking against the round table? What message do you have to say for those people, or those who are choose to deem the round table as a failure before even it's and assume that it's not going to accomplish anything?
Well, I would first of all say that the Roundtable Conference does not provide a magic solution to the problems in South Sudan. It is a proposal for a solution. And I want to recall what President.
Hello?
And also beyond South Sudan, people beyond South Sudan, meaning in the region and the international community, those who have leverage in supporting peace process in South Sudan to follow the process, to be able to follow the agenda. For now, this is a proposal that has been made. And it is an important proposal that honestly we need to sit and have an honest discussion with regard to the situation that we face. And I would encourage all South Sudanese to be able to provide solutions right now in the situation that we face in the country. And obviously, I did not expect that the suggestion or this proposal would be easily accepted by everyone. And so those who think there are better options to help lead to solutions, more viable solutions to the situation in South Sudan, we would be happy to see those solutions presented. Let us have these ideas all spread out on the table, and then let us discuss them and agree on the most viable option. But if there is nothing more viable that we are providing, then opposing an idea just for the sake of opposing it does not contribute to any solution. That is one. The other thing is that, the situation necessitated this idea. This national dialogue is strongly associated with it is associated partly with the transitional arrangement. It emanated partly because of the end of the transitional arrangement approaching and no clarity in the way forward, and also dismissing completely the idea of elections, premature elections, and also the idea of an extension that would not deliver any results. And that's why this suggestion was floated. As someone who is actively engaging in the process, in following developments in South Sudan and engaging in some of these processes, we have other processes that we believe would also contribute. So for now, I would really strongly encourage that we contribute solutions and contribute ideas. And if we have, if we disagree, for example, with the round table conference, let us suggest what works. For example, if we think that if this thing is led by South Sudanese as facilitators and it would not be trusted, you suggest that this should be the way to go. If you think that this is going to be held in country B, which is not so good, you can suggest that it happens in country B. If you think that there should be more women to participate, you suggest that. So let us provide suggestions that really help us to find solutions to the crisis that we face in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Brother Mujassir. Brother Mujassir, go ahead. The mic is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sister Pam. And I would like also to thank very much Mr. Rajab for his presentation. Also would like to welcome Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin, the General Secretary of OSOMA and the Chairman of NDM Patriotic Front, and one of the leaders who are holding the round table, and also to informing the South Sudanese what is the round table. Mr. Ambassador, you're most welcome. We are waiting also for your presentation to go further on that. Then follow up, we'll come with the questions for Mr. Rajab Mohandis and also for Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin as well, either by writing them to us, those who are down, or we can bring you up after the presentation of Ambassador Emmanuel. Ambassador, you are most welcome. In South Sudan, it's not a cup of tea. And then we are really waiting for your presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabur. Also, let me thank those who are in podium here, Pam, Sister Pam, and also my brother, Rajab. And also let me take this chance also to greet the audience. My apologies actually for coming a little bit late. I was having a nap, was tired from work when I just came back. And then, by the way, I was dreaming about Roundtable Conference, and I remember, wow, I'm supposed to have a debate today about Roundtable. So even, we sleep Roundtable is terrorizing us, so which is good, But nevertheless, I am glad to be here with you this evening. I think Brother Rajab has spoken in length about the composition of the Roundtable Conference. He has given enough examples from Yemen, which they had national dialogue. And by the way, the Yemeni national dialogue was very interesting. I recall back in 2018, my very dear friend and a very close friend of mine, whom we knew one another in the UN as middle diplomats, Ustaz Khalid al-Yemeni, became the foreign minister of Yemen a couple of years ago. I think that was 2019 or 2018, July. But I knew him from 2008. We were good friends. So he sent me a copy, which I still have, of the Yemeni National Dialogue. And he said, we always share the problems in our countries. And I believe this report of the National Dialogue of the Yemen could one day help you in how you could resolve the issues of South Sudan, given the complexity and the similarity of the composition of the ethnicities and so forth, and the politics of ethnicity in South Sudan. Yemen example could be useful. I'm sure today, after this conversation with you, I will try to dig up his emails and try to get a copy. But what I would like to say is that the roundtable, as has been underlined by Rajab, the important factor in it is the political will. Is the political will that must be there for the implementation of its resolution. We know very well that in South Sudan, we are dealing with a government that have dishonored so many agreements, a government that is very abrasive about the suffering of its own people, a government that is there to protect its political interests, its economical interests, a government that does not even deserve to be called a government because it has come out to be a cartel kind of group that are protecting their ill-gotten wealth, and they are also continuing to loot South Sudan. So they will not want a national conversation by the people of South Sudan through the Roundtable Conference that will usher into a new political dispensation and redesigning of the Republic of South Sudan, and hence the Second Republic that we are asking for. But we believe, nevertheless, whether it is not the liking of the government, it is not their cup of tea. It is rather the consensus by the people of South Sudan to determine their own destiny. So we in the Roundtable Conference, all of us who will be meeting, we must find a formula of how to make the resolutions of the Roundtable implementable. One of the reasons, or one of options that we have to make the resolutions of the Roundtable implementable is the underlying political solution to the issues of governance in our country. We believe that the issues of governance has been a problem, and it has been one of the root causes of the conflict in our country. The country has been misgoverned from 2011 to date. We have a president that has been given enormous power by late Maulana John Luk under what became known as John Luk's constitution. This constitution, if you look at it, and you look at the 21 powers or so of the president, I would say that even Julius Caesar, the dictator of Rome, will be jealous of Kir Mayati. He has been given absolute power to play with the destiny of the people. Kir, apart from appointing judges, apart from dissolving even the national parliaments, Kir also can even dismiss the governors at will, depending on his whims, on which side of the bed he wakes up. We, and especially us in NDM Patriotic Front, we believe that what we need in South Sudan is not a strong president as an individual. What we need in our country for South Sudan to develop and to progress is what I call the building of strong institutions. It is the institutions that will overlast all of us here. I'm sure many of you here after 100 years may not be alive. If it happens, then you'll be one of the luckiest, because you'll be 130 or 150. So what we would like to do is to create institutions that are watertight, bulletproof, institutions that will overlast us as individuals. Because countries are not crafted on the personalities of individuals. It is rather crafted on the constitutions and institutions that will continue being there whether we are around or we are not. The United States is a very young country. It has less than 400 years in existence, but has proven itself not only to be democratic, it has proven that it has institutions that are strong, deeply emboldened in the society itself, and hence it can continue, as an example, as a leading country in the world. What they did, they developed a constitution that is progressive. And that constitution, many of you have read the constitution letters. It was not easy for the 13 little federate unions or federates to come together in one union, later on developing to 50-something, I think, will come countries, federal states. It was not easy to negotiate it first, because you were negotiating between big states, medium big states, and small states. You could vision it in number of tribes, whether you have the largest, the medium tribes, the small tribes. but it was drafted as a constitution based on extensive negotiations, equal negotiations between the small, the medium, and the largest states. And they came up with a constitution that is progressive, representing the interests of even the smallest states, those of New Jersey and the rest. And the constitution talks almost collapsed because the smallest states said we must also be equally represented as the largest states or the middle states, be it in Congress or in Senate. And they managed to overcome their narrow state interests and look for America. And therefore, they came up with the Constitution of the United States, a constitution that is progressive until today. What we need to do in South Sudan as a generation, because I believe it is a historical duty incumbent upon us as a generation to develop a constitution that will address all the social, political, and economical interests of the people of South Sudan. A constitution that will not segregate, neither will it give power to the biggest or the middle or the smallest tribes or nationalities. I call them nationalities in South Sudan. We are not tribes. And therefore, to develop that kind of constitution, you will need a serious talk around these issues, agreeing on the methodology of the governance by the people of South Sudan. And that is why the idea of the Roundtable Conference was envisaged by those who are now calling for it. It's for us to have a serious discussion as the people of South Sudan without exclusion. Women, for example, are the majority. They are majority in our population in South Sudan, not only in South Sudan, by the way, but I think in the world. And their voices must be heard. They have issues that must be discussed, starting from the marginalization of the women themselves. The women now in South Sudan are terribly, terribly marginalized. John called them the marginalized of the marginalized. So their voices in the Roundtable Conference is paramount and is critically important. Women have issues to do with what we call the abuse of girls not going to schools, young girls being married off, and young girls being traded as a currency to enrich their families. This must also be addressed because a society cannot progress when its own mothers are oppressed. So women also has been represented there and to discuss what they want and how they would like to participate in a country called South Sudan. The same thing with the youth. Youth also, they form a large number and sector of the community. Our youth today are also marginalized. Thousands of our university graduates are on the streets, be it in Juba, in cafes, or be it across South Sudan. With their degrees, they can't even get jobs. In a country that needs each and every degree, not only a degree, a country that will even need a high school certificate, because South Sudan should be on the verge of economical development and prosperity. You will need to employ everybody so that the country could sit on its legs. But its opposite is happening in South Sudan. Our youth are spending times playing dominoes, playing chess, playing cards. It's not because they love playing those games, but there's nothing for them to do. Nothing for them to do. Their dreams have been killed. Now, their age mates, the ladies who graduated with them, are getting married to the older men or to the more financially stable men, and they cannot afford it. Also, they have interest issues to address, how they can get jobs, how they can become a chain of economical development in our country. So they must be presented. The same thing with the faith-based organization. Our churches across our country today, they are terrified to speak. The churches and the pulpit should be the center of speaking the truth. They are the guidance and the guardians of the society. When the society has its ills, the pastors must talk. They must preach about the ills. If it is political ills that is happening in dictatorship, it is the role of the people in the churches and other faith, even in the mosque, to speak up against the injustice. But if you look today across South Sudan, there's only few church leaders or religious leaders who are speaking about the injustice. The majority are quiet. They are saying hallelujah. And yet, they don't dare talk about the suffering of the people of South Sudan. So, we must give and create an environment for the church or the religious leaders to speak freely, because they are the, as I said, guardians of the morality in our society. When we go wrong as politicians, it is the religious leaders that remind us that not at Kabru, after all, you are dust, and to the dust you will go. It reminds us it's them. They tell us what you're doing is wrong with the people. So we must create a conducive environment where they can speak, and therefore their representation in the roundtable conference discussions are also important. The religious leaders, the civil society. Yes, we know civil societies, they don't run countries, they don't govern countries. I've never seen a civil society governing a country. But civil society are a very important component of addressing various issues that are of concern to the people. And their representation in the roundtable conference is also important, so that they can speak and even agree of how they could be nurtured, as in South Sudan civil societies, or civil society is still in its infancy in South Sudan. And civil society can never succeed in an oppressive environment where dictatorship, intimidation is the norm in the country. So they must also be present to speak their mind. The presidential system in our country, coming back to it, has proven not to be a desirable one. It has created a dictator. It has created war in our country. Because everybody, they rep gabay. Lano kitab gabay, gabila bitak bakul. Ukitab gabay, friends bitak bakul. Ukitab gabay, you are the absolute power. So everybody want to be a bay. Even us in Maarada, ukibkulna bini ya jama, el Maarada da, when we made Soma. Ukulna bini Soma, you couldn't forgo rotational leadership. You know, some were saying, well, like rotational cave leadership, ya Emmanuel Marv Nazal Deri rotational. Malazim yakun fi banywa kida yakum nas. You know, so hata nina figaba, there are some people also who want to rule. Banyism is a problem in our country. And if Banyism was a political concept for delivery of the service to the people of South Sudan, it would have made sense. But people want to be Banyism, they want to be Bany, to practice Noctism, okay? And to just sit there and eat. And we are saying in South Sudan, we must demystify this concept of a big man and the concept of Banyism. We must develop a system where you, when you're in the government, you must see yourself first as a servant of the people. You as a government minister, or a president or prime minister, you were first a servant to the people of South Sudan. That means people are supreme. You are only there to serve them. Look at other countries, I'm not saying they're unique. When a minister does not report, just a small thing like ticket, buying it with the government money and is going for private visit, it creates havoc. A government or the minister in question will be requested to resign because he's playing with the public funds. But for Junub Mafi, or for Africa as a whole, as a minister, takul 50 million, Salva Kiir is always marked, and Zil Beta, what's the consequence? You get dismissed for 2 months. But here, you start writing a letter when he dismisses you of appreciations. I've never seen in my life political hypocrisy at its highest order, only existing in South Sudan, where you were dismissed as a minister and you will tell the president, Your Excellency, thank you for dismissing me. Thank you for dismissing me. And it was a pleasure serving under you. Why? Because these dudes, they know the game. That once they have been dismissed, it's not the final act. So there's in Kamikaze or the samurai, there's something called an honorable death. So they know it is not the final blow. You will exit for a while, but Ben will come and ask, when he's drinking whiskey without, Sabida Gwene Jama, my you dismissed him. Really? That's Jibu Tani. He's missing you. Either from Hazarbez of Takustena. Filan when, Maita Tarotu Zara Jibu. You come again. You go to him, he said, yeah, enter. What does the return is there? I said, Class, I'll bring you back again. So you see these ministers coming back. It's a rotating door. So therefore, when you dismiss, you thank the president for dismissal. This is what is happening. Absolute abuse of power. We think that time has come to develop a new system where, rather than having a strong president, an individual, let's have a prime minister. رئيس وزراء بس رئيس وزراء ده عشان الرئيس بتاعه ما يمشي فوق ويعمل له رئيس في راسه. Prime Minister ده, he has to be answerable to the parliament. On daily basis, he has to be in the parliament, debating and defending his government policies or our government policies. There's no way he can hide in the presidency. Africa, you will have a president that cannot even read and write. But because he's president, he's not answerable to anybody. He doesn't come to the parliament. He cannot be scrutinized, or she cannot be scrutinized. He's behind the curtain. He's like an oracle. He cannot be accessed. If you want to meet you, he will send you someone junior to talk to you. If you want to talk publicly, he will not come because he has nothing to offer. So they thrive behind the curtain and ruled by remote control. This is what people want. And if we don't change the presidential system for Junub, and don't think I'm lying. You can have Turkey or president of South Sudan tomorrow, ruling you, he can't read, he can't write. And he will employ someone like Mujazi, Shariki Relo Arabic Quays, he just signs. He doesn't know what he's signing. And he'll be comfortable ruling you because he's not appearing in the parliament to defend the policies. He cannot even defend himself, leave alone defending the policies. Look at when there to defend himself. There's no even language to defend himself. No Arabic, not English. But I'm just giving an example. I'm not going after the poor dude. I was calling him Biggie, I'm not going after him. But I'm saying anybody in that capacity who cannot read or write, under the constitution we have, anybody, any Dick and Harry can be a president. And they will cause disaster to us. So we are saying let's get out this concept of president. Let's be having a prime minister, a parliamentarian system to build. Let's all the EG and defend policies better. If they cannot defend their policy, the government will have a vote of no confidence, or will have early elections, vote him or her out, bring somebody that is competent to rule the country. To me, that could also remedy the deficiency that the presidential system has shown to us in South Sudan. That is not workable. So we must move towards, in my opinion, and I said this NDM Patriotic Front is not the NCF position, but many of us will come to round table with ideas. So the issue of governance is important. The issue also of the political system must be debated. Does South Sudan need federal system? Do we need confederal system in South Sudan? Do we even need separation in South Sudan? These are issues to be discussed in the roundtable conference, because the unitary system in South Sudan we have today is not working. The system we have now, the centralized system, has become a vehicle of looting the resources of South Sudan, where 90-something% of the resources generated in the states are taken and spent in Juba by Banyat. So they take 90% of all the 10 states' revenues to Juba, and they eat. And the states are suffering. The Payams and counties, there are no services there. Sudan becomes Juba. Juba becomes South Sudan. And that is it. Today, as we talk, everybody has migrated, including the cows. They have migrated to Juba. Because Juba has become the source not only of the oil money, but even for the good grass for the cows. Juba has become attractive for them, the animals too. And this must stop. What is making Juba attractive to the looters? What is making Juba attractive to the cows? Are there no grass in the states? Why is Juba becoming so? We are saying Juba now has become a Babylon. And that Babylon is not conducive for us. It is an oppressive system. It is an ungodly system. It must be dismantled. How do you dismantle the Babylon that we have today in South Sudan? We will dismantle it by taking power back to the people. What does power mean, taking back power to the people? It means we create a governance system where if there is 80% of the resource generated in Eastern Equatoria, malet 80% they come for Eastern Equatoria. Are there no people in Eastern Equatoria? There are people. So why will you want 80% of Eastern Equatorial resources to be transferred to Juba? Why? Who's eating in the name of Eastern Equatoria enough to Juba? We are saying if Mujazib is the governor of Eastern Equatoria, Unugulia Mujazib 80% of your resource, gold betag Eastern Equatoria, let it be there. So that you can develop Eastern Equatoria. You can build schools. You can build hospitals. You can build roads. You can create employment for your people. It shouldn't feel better. Let it go to center. It's enough. After all, what do we need in center? We have to pay the government officials, chapter 1. We have to pay our people in the unitary ministries, like foreign affairs, like defense. We pay them. And then we pay to a trust fund, where all of us pay as a state. So in case anybody is behind, they can ask for grant. And that is it. If we go to that level, our states, our payams and counties and others will economically progress, will economically develop. And even the cows that are coming to Juba, you create green pastures for them. You know, and as I said many times, you find a way of how to make the cow enter into the economical chain of development in the country. That way, well, if you Juba, I want that. Well, if you live for Juba, I want that. Because because the reason, and I said, we don't learn from history. Our conflict with Northern Sudan has been a conflict of marginalization. Khartoum was once like Juba. Everybody moves from the countryside to Khartoum for treatment. You go to Khartoum. You want to issue a birth certificate, you go to Khartoum. The established Shahada Sudaniya, you go to Khartoum. Everything in Khartoum. So those who cannot afford good houses in Khartoum, slums develops in around Khartoum. The areas of Hayusif in 80s, early 80s, were slums. Kalakala, Tolgofogo Nuba, Ujunubin, Ushunu. These were the areas because they were not able to afford to live in Khartoum. While Khartoum Ignan, wala Bahri, Mahal al Fogu, Laulad al Beled. So they go and live in this corner. And therefore Ashanti towns develops. Marginalization, segregation comes in. And therefore, the children of the marginalized areas started rebelling against the Babylon system that you have in Khartoum. Because they saw that people are moving to Khartoum, regions are left undeveloped, and there's no development. The problem of Sudan for the last 50 years had been a problem of undevelopment or uneven development, if there's even a development to talk about. Junub now is doing the same mistake. Under the pretext, Juba is the capital, so we all move. Juba is providing everything. All our revenue is collected from the states to Juba. This must be demystified. We must dismantle the Babylon so that the people in the smallest units can benefit financially and economically progress and socially also progress. The other issue that we would have to address is the issue of economy. Jama, what we have in South Sudan today, they say that South Sudan is ruled under what we call the free market economy. Under the free market economy, it literally says that the market regulates itself, the issues of supply and demand. Okay. Therefore, he who has money, concept of capitalism, will always exploit the weak. Because in capitalist system, the workers are hired cheaply so that the investor can maximize the profit. This is simple logics of capitalism. It's based on exploitation of the weaker. That's why in most capitalist countries, you will find 1% of the population controlling the 99%. Because it is based on what they call, that you are on, they have this concept that in a capitalist country, the sky is the limit. You can try your level best and be rich. So everything depends on how hard you work. But I'm telling you, you can work in factory for 16 hours for the next 50 years, and you will never be a millionaire. Because you're only renting your services so that you could be exploited and maximum profit is made. Let's say if you work in the United States today and you work in a chicken factory, the 1 hour you spend standing on the line, the manufacturing line, whatever line, production line, you may be producing almost 1,000 piece chicken. And this 1,000 whole chicken, let's say even one sells for $5, and in US more than that. So you're producing 5,000 an hour, but you're given a minimum wage. Your minimum wage could be $8 or even $10 an hour. So you're producing $5,000 worth of good in your line standing, and you're given only $10. $10. It is called exploitation under capitalism. Our dudes in Juba, I don't know what they are. Even I don't understand why even if they know the concept of capitalism are. Like they're there as gangsters. The good way to describe them is literally you call them cartels. And that is what it is. It's like in the movies of Godfather. This is what is happening in Juba. You must have a godfather to be a successful business owner. And there are few. And these millionaires, and so all of them, majority of them, they have godfathers who are in the government. Our economical system is left under the mercy of foreigners. And literally, if you look at South Sudan economy, it's only a consuming economy, what they call extraction economy. There is not really a foundation for a sound economic system in South Sudan. There are no factories, there are no manufacturers, there are no even agriculturalist farms that can produce for food security in our country. So what you have is a commodity market, and mostly run by Sudanese, be it Northern Sudanese or Western Sudanese. And then you have the hospitality, the hotels, either run by the Ethiopians or the Eritrean. يجي جزارة يشتري لو محظوظ يقولوا دكان بتاع منداري. Now the Arabs are buying from the Mundari so they could sell. Yes. Thank you Amina Lamdao. شركات المويه بتاع المويه كمان the same. زمان كان جوز مويه جنوبين. جوز مويه زمان كان جنوبين. Those of you who remember جوز مويه. But now you have tankers providing water. So since you begin as a South Sudan, I want to give you the misery and the awful life a South Sudanese lives when you wake up in the morning. Let's start by morning. الجنوب يصحى من النوم. الجنوب يصحى من النوم أول حاجة بسويه شنو؟ You want to brush تسوي وتمشي حمام تستحمى قبل ما تمشي شغل. أول كوباية الموية that you put in your mouth وتسوق ده مويه بتاع اثيوبيا جابوا لك. كوبايه المويه الاول عشان تسوق بيه is foreigner. اوكي. وكتمشي لفطور ودير لك محل كده راقي بتمشي هوتيل بتاع منو اجنبي. ودير تشتري خضار في البيت والزيت والبصل تمشي لدكان فوراوي ولا زغاوي ولا شمال السودان اللي قاعدين في السوق ولا صومالي. تعال لعشاء دير لك باستا لو انت شاب دير لك صحن فول the same thing foreigners. وكده تيجي تنوم السرير نايم فوق ده it is foreign companies that are importing it and selling it to you. الهدوم انت لابسه ده ظروف دقاقين بتاع اجانب. So there's nothing. Gargizat betak that you own as South Sudanese, bin matugum sabah, there's nothing South Sudanese about you. Nothing. You want to come and tell me the economy is doing well? Well, how do you know Mashi Kwais? Shanfi Hotel. You know Mashi Kwais, going to the Pyramid Hotel, you're drinking, and then you're eating pizza. Well, how do you know because you're Europa? That is the measurement of development to you. This is a narrow aspect of looking at life. We own nothing في جنوب اقتصاديا. We own nothing. دولة زي ده ما بمشي قدام. دولة وكده يكون أجانب هم الماسكينه ده نهايته. لأنه this is a threat to the national security بتاعك. الأمن القومي بتاعك محدد. لأنه ديل جابوا فساد في جنوب السودان. جنوب يا جماعة زمان جنوب ما ممكن يقول لك أديني كيدو كيدو أديني حاجة صغيرة. تديو رشوة بخشيش. ده ما كان ثقافة بتاعنا أبدا. جنوبين الليلة بدون خوف. يعمل لك حاجة صغيرة بيقول لك زول كبير حاجة بتاع شاي. زول كبير حاجة بتاع شاي. You become corrupt to the core. Again, fasting. A country that is corrupt cannot develop. That's why I said earlier to remark me time. What is it? نزل كنايس ونزل مساجد الشيوخ. المفروض كانوا يتكلموا عن الأوضاع زي ده. But they cannot talk. So Haramia will continue being Haramia. Because even Haramia they're glorified anyway. تلقى زول هسه defending حكومة هنا في club house. ويقول لك yes my uncle is Harami ما مشكلة معلوم. He's sending me money. As our brother Pio Lumumba said, that when in Africa, they say, well, I mean, Mr. X is a thief. They say, no, don't worry. The tribe will say, no, it's our thief. They glorify them. The singers will sing for them. They will lavishly invite you for dinner, and the Junubin will come to eat. Zolda Harami. But Mafi Damir, as long as you are eating, is okay. Mafi Zolda Kanisa, pastor or reference who will tell you, these are ill-gotten. Ignen bes, wal talata, wal wahid. Zolda Kanisa who speaks the truth in Juba. I don't want to mention it, you know him. He's the only voice that talk with the sheep and say it as it is. The rest are quiet, singing hallelujah bes for Kanisa. And they forgot that the essence of Jesus coming to the world is to liberate us from sins. Jesus was a revolutionary. He was a first-class revolutionary. If it's not because of the old photos that has been sent by us by the Catholic Church, Jesus Christ in the modern day will be wearing the cap of Che Guevara, or Fidel Castro, or even Sankara. Because he was a true revolutionist. He came for those who are weak, and he spoke until he was crucified. But today in Kenisa, they turn blind eye to the suffering of the people. Kenisa has become a place to enrich yourself. And that's the problem. If you see our brother Abraham, he's also one of the critical people who spoke. هسه قاعد سنه وشويه في السجن عشان نتكلم عن الفساد والرؤساء والقاده السياسيين الفاسدين في بلد. He was locked up because prophets always speak the truth, and the people of God always speak the truth without fear. You saw Isaiah, you saw many of the prophets, even Jonah. When God sent him to talk with the king, he was trying to run away. And the whale swallowed him, and he was brought back. God told him, you can run, but you can't hide from me, Jonah. You go back and talk to the king. Whether he likes it or not, talk to him. This is how the churches should be, and the religious leaders we have today. But unfortunately, they are not. So coming to the economy, our economy needs a clear roadmap. What I call Southern nationalism, Southern economic nationalism. It means Junubin must be first, second, and last as the beneficiaries of their own economy. We're not saying we spend the foreigners, but ownership of businesses and development of businesses in South Sudan, priority should be given to Junubin. Government should create jobs for them. So my Junubin now they have no money to get jobs. Hukuma can
build factories. If it's a government that has program, because we Gurush, Sudan produce oil, Gurush gadam she win. Bagulu, lakin Gurush lo khoto lela fi sharakat, Junubin will be working there. Lunda sharaka sakit bita ma'alabat fi dakhil Western Equatoria lela. How many thousands of youth you can employ? Mudi yidamule sharakat bira. Lakin lunda sharakat ben maani, even light industry, you'll create thousands of jobs and there'll be nobody unemployed for Junub Sudan. So when you're a youth and your people are employed, they'll bring money to the economy. As Garang said, a poor government has poor people. A rich government has rich people. So we need to discuss these issues for roundtable conference. And there are many issues that we need to discuss in the roundtable conference. That's why we are saying, my dear compatriots, South Sudanese, our country ills can only be resolved through talking. God made our tongue so that we can express our thoughts and ideas. That's the difference between us and animals, by the way. It is that humans, we mastered the communication. We can communicate and plan and express our ideas. Animals don't have it. That is why they are still caught up. But the day animals speak, then we're in danger. So speaking is important to resolve the crisis, to evaluate ourselves. The Roundtable Conference, as Brother Rajab said earlier, is an all-inclusive roundtable discussion. You come and talk so that we could agree how we can move on with our country, how we reconstruct Juba, Sudan, how we can start moving towards building a democratic South Sudan based on political parties, preaching their ideas freely, and you, the people of South Sudan, electing your representatives through democratic means based on the ideas that they're presenting. It's not a far-fetched dream. It only needs the political will. And we will do it. And we're determined that South Sudan must see better days ahead. We're optimistic that there's hope beyond the tribulations in South Sudan. One day the storm will calm down. One day our ship will sail peacefully in South Sudan. One day there will be no child dying of hunger in South Sudan because we have food security. We know one day nobody should die from treatable diseases because we have factories that are manufacturing medicine, not even importing it. But we manufacture medicine in Juba, in Junub Sudan, sorry. Even I mean, I'm talking Juba now because everything has become Juba. I'm being conditioned to. Yeah. So this need a constructive dialogue. Those who are against the Roundtable Conference, I will say God forgive them for they know not what they do. It's either based on not understanding or comprehending the philosophy of the Roundtable and what the Roundtable could do, or it is based on what I call constructive opposition. And if that is the case, there's nothing I can do to you, my dear brother and sister. If that's your nature, that's of criticism without coming solution, then there's nothing I can do. The most dangerous thing is to be just destructive and critic without offering solutions. Rajab also talked about it earlier. We want all of us to come. If you don't comprehend the Roundtable Conference, you come and ask questions. We are here to answer it. And I will rest my case here, Sister Pam and Brother Mujazif. I know sometimes we get carried away with talks,
And because there are a lot of things in our heads, and this is the nature of our country. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin, for your presentation, and you touch a lot of issues. So I will let Sister Pam, if you had some questions that who is prepared for the two gentlemen, you go ahead, or otherwise we'll open the platform for for our brothers and the citizens of South Sudan to come and ask questions direct as well. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Mujassir. Actually, questions that I have prepared, majority of them, Brother Rajab answer, and later Ambassador Emmanuel answered most of them. But I have one question that was sent from the audience for Brother Rajab, based on the answer that he gave for the question of who is funding the roundtable. So the question is, if the international community failed to fund the roundtable, would it fail?
Good, thank you. First of all, I will be surprised if the international community does not invest in funding the roundtable conference. Because number one, they are in a fixed situation in South Sudan at the moment. They are paying for millions of dollars, in fact, billions of dollars, to maintain, to provide humanitarian response, and also to keep the United Nations mission in South Sudan alive. I'm not so sure of the figures, but this year's cost, was it about 1.6 or 1.9 billion to run UNMISS? And then you also have a huge amount that goes for humanitarian assistance. Now, humanitarian situation in the country that takes this money, together, of course, with the services that they deliver, services that would happen whether there is conflict or no conflict, is such a huge amount of money. And they are stuck in this, in a process that is completely unsustainable. They want to get out of this crisis. And they spend all this money just because South Sudan is unable to function as a state. And so they have to take responsibility of delivering services, providing water, providing food, even food actually, delivering health services, educational services, and so forth. In addition to that, they pay for over a dozen thousand UN peacekeeping forces running their operations and all the other things that happen in the country. Now, if they cannot support South Sudan to reach a political solution and have a functional government, they are going to be in that crisis of paying billions of dollars every year indefinitely, and they do not want to be in that situation. So they are desperately looking for a solution for South Sudan to come out of this political crisis so that it's able to function as a state and deliver on the functions of a state, which means take care of its people, take care of security, and deliver services. So we are confident that so far there is an expression of interest to support, and therefore the support is likely to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. I have a question from Mr. Ambassador. My question for you is, there's a lot of misconception in social media about the roundtable, and some people believe that the roundtable is came about either because the opposition failed, or also because, and the second misconception is that the people who are members of the roundtable are usually those of like-minded. So if someone were to join the roundtable with a different idea, it will be shut down, or they will not be accepted into the roundtable. Can you please tell us if there's any factual to that statement? And if it's not, what would you tell those people with such mindset?
No, thank you, Sister Pam, for these two important questions. And I think it's important for us to address it. And that is why we need to hold talks about roundtable. And that's why I said earlier I had enough. And I even started dreaming about roundtable conference. And I said, oh my God, I'm supposed to have I'm supposed to be attending a debate on the roundtable. And I woke up and thank God I found you guys still just started. So it's important for us to hammer the roundtable. That's why I said even last time, this time we need even some babies who are learning to talk to be brought to the roundtable so they sit around and learn how to talk, and listen to the issues of South Sudan. I'm just kidding. Coming to the questions that you have raised, the misconception, and thank God you said it's misconception, because the conception can be either built on a true factual issues, or it can be false. And in this case, I think it's built on false, and that is based on the misunderstanding itself of the issues. Now, the question of opposition failing. I don't think we have failed anything, my dear Pam, and those who may be asking the question. Opposition task is not only to oppose the regime. Opposition means coming with alternative solutions to the social problems, to the political problems, to the economical problems in our country. And I think in case of South Sudan, we have been a proactive opposition. The fact that we have the clubhouse now and houses in Juba and in diaspora, people are talking about roundtable conference. It is a success in political arena. But of course, when they say failure, Junubin, they think that when you're opposing the regime, it is a matter of a day or two and the regime will collapse. If that is the case, we would have had hundreds of government changing on a weekly basis around the world. It takes time, if it means literally toppling the regime. It will take time to do it. You need resources. But the objective is not only to topple the regime. The objective of opposition is to create a new political dispensation, whether it's through agreement with the regime, or negotiating the regime out of power, or physically removing the regime. But Junubin judgment is that we in the opposition should just have this Rambo kind of a style, capture Juba, capture Malakal, capture Wau, capture Rumbeu, Kalazu, Kumbaga. That is what they call success. But you cannot also blame us. Junubin for too long, they have known nothing apart from war. For anything you want solution to it, you must shoot an AK-47. If you have issues of economical issues of poverty, you must shoot your way through by AK-47. If you have issues of diseases, you should shoot your way too. If you have a problem with your brother or sister, you should shoot your way through AK-47. We've been shooting our ways through AK-47 from 1955 to today. And we've been shooting our ways since 2013. We want to shoot the economy. And I give you a joke that Matip, one day one of the brothers told Paulina Matip, the late Paulina Matip, that, this killing of innocent civilians and generalized Zeda, Marquez, Lanu, Shufta, Kawaja, ICC, da, Biji Bagbudu, Paulina Matip Gale, Ahuika de Shuf, El Kawaja Sumu ICC, da. Because he thought that ICC is also a man that can be shot with AK-47, So this is mentality of Junubin. We want to shoot our way even through the ICC. This concept has to change. In resolving the economical crisis in our country, resolving social problems and of evils in our country, like in South Sudan, in that magnitude, there is a need to have a dialogue. You don't shoot your way with AK-47 through the crisis that we have in our country.
Sorry.
So opposition has not failed. If they mean the talks in Rome, we have reached an impasse. It did not fail, by the way. There's a difference between the talk collapsing and talks reaching impasse. What we had with the government for the 3 years
is that the talks have reached impasse. Manuel, it did not break up completely, but we are not agreeing on the issues. We need more rounds. It has not collapsed. So we are saying now, given the situation in the country, we do not believe that the bilateral talks in Rome should continue. And I will come later on because Ahmed also asked the question, Sister Ahmed. Because bilateral talks will only lead to a formation of another transitional period by the political elites. Hence, repeating the same mistakes of first RCS, second RCS, where the elites empower themselves and read themselves and call themselves honorables. And the problem with the people of South Sudan continues. The hunger continues. Insecurity continues. Poverty continues. Economical marginalization continues. Repression of the democratic voices are oppressed. This to us, we said no, concord the wrong talks. Let's concentrate on the roundtable conference. You've been cool come. We the non-signatories are saying, although it is our right to continue talks with the government of Kir on the side, we're saying no. We don't need it. And I'm talking as a senior member of the non-signatories. And this is the voice of our colleagues too. We are saying we don't want mini resolution of conflict by the elites and the warring parties. No. We want Junubin to be included. That's why we went for an all-inclusive roundtable conference. Civil society and Rajab Bikunu Garden for faith-based organization must be based on it. And women and youth. So we all talk with the government now. Together, rather than you government talking with us, the six, let government talk with Junubin. And this is what we're offering. To me, it's not a failure, it's a success. The only people that have failed us is the government of Kir. They have looted the country for the last 11 years. They have displaced South Sudanese, made them refugees. They have created a concentration camp of POCs. You have seen the documentary in our brother's Edward show a couple of days ago. How people are suffering inside Juba, leave alone in the region, in the state, in the states. All these are creation of the regime. Is the regime that has failed? How has General Thomas failed as an opposition leader now? How does Pagana Moon fail as an opposition leader? How does Thomas Doe fail as an opposition leader? Or even Molonga one in that case? Or even poor me, Emmanuel Ajawin, how have I failed? The people of South Sudan have not failed. These are just revolutionaries, freedom fighters. We don't even pay. No one pays us to oppose the regime, by the way. It's all voluntary. So we have not failed as opposition. We're on the right track. Because a responsible opposition, it is an opposition that comes with ideas to resolve the problem. Master opposition for Juba, which kind of opposition? Are they not sleeping? What have they had? Do you hear their voices? Do you hear them when the floods are across the country? Which opposition talks in Juba about the floods? Which opposition in Juba talks about the economical crisis our people are going through? Which opposition now in Juba talk about the repressiveness of the regime? Kuragwe is in prison for doing nothing but apart from what they do, those of Rajab making a statement, which is their freedom under the constitution to express themselves. He's in jail. Is any opposition talking in Juba about this injustice? Mafi. What about Abraham, the prophet? He has been in jail for a year or so. Is any opposition talking about it? Who has failed? So, Junubin, you answer that. You asked the second question. That the opposition or the NCF or those who are calling for roundtable conference are people of like-minded. No, that is not true. what we are saying is that we have a commonality. The commonality we share in the NCF, which, for example, the political groups like the non-signatories, the civil society like PCCA and others, the faith and women organization and youth, what we share is the commonality based on the need for hosting a roundtable, holding a roundtable conference. And we will also be working on developing a common position. There is no way on earth you can find more than 3 people agreeing on one thing. They will have to enter into a dialogue, negotiations among themselves, and agree on commonalities and discard what they don't agree on. This is how you do things within resolving social problems. So it is not true that it is exclusively like-minded. Otherwise, we'll be kidding ourselves. Why will we be kidding ourselves? We are not there to deceive ourselves. We are here to discuss the problems of our country. And that is why, if you listen to what I say, is that the Roundtable Conference, we want the Unionists, we want the Federalists, we want the Confederalists, we want the Separatists. Are all these 4 guys or 4 groups like-minded? Maybe I say that I want the Separatists to be with me in the talks. I want the Unionists to be around the table. I want the Confederates to be around the table. I want the Federalists to be around the table. It means that round table will have people coming from different schools of thoughts. There's no uniformity here, even in the political ideology. But you're doing a social contract that will be based on negotiation, give and take. So it is not true that the members of NCF and the members that will come to round table conference are like-minded. They are coming from totally different school of thoughts. But we are hoping that with this variety of various political thoughts, we can work out something that will be common to all of us. Lastly, Sister Ahmed asked, and I hope you're doing well, Sister Ahmed, long time. She asked the question, how will it be different? How will the roundtable be different from national dialogue? National dialogue, my sister, was under the patronage of none other than Salva Ibn Kir Mayardin, who was the chair first of the national dialogue. The elders like Abel Alier, Unas Francis Dem, Unas Angelo Bed. But it was a precondition was meant to kill chapter 5 of the agreement that talks about truth and reconciliation, and that people must be held accountable for crimes that were committed in 2013. To avoid this, Kir came up with a roundtable conference. With the national dialogue. He was hoping to water it down so that national dialogue will forgive the leaders and talk about the new beginning. Therefore, making the hybrid court of the African Union irrelevant by saying the people of South Sudan have decided not to go for punishment for those who have committed war crimes, but they have agreed to forgive the leaders and forgive themselves. So it was not meant for resolving the economic, social, and political problems in our country. Honestly, it was meant as just a Trojan horse to achieve the narrow objective of Kir regarding the implementation, I think, of chapter 5 of the Truth and Reconciliation. Secondly, it was not inclusive. Nina fi Marda Rafadna Dunkun part of it. We were not involved as an opposition. It was a monologue between the regime and those who are inside its territories. Thirdly, you cannot have a national dialogue under an conducive environment. It was held in Juba and South Sudan under the watching eye of Akol Kor and the rest. To us, a roundtable conference for its success, the conducive environment for the holding of it must be acceptable to all, because you cannot negotiate under intimidation. And lastly, we were not told from the beginning how the resolution of roundtable national dialogue would be implemented. It was that the national dialogue should finish, and just look at that joke. It was really a sad joke. He's saying that whatever you say will be accepted, it is you, the people. And he gave them the room to talk. Must go. When he read the report, God, what did you say? I must go where? You have messed up into Maria. This is not acceptable. Come around table, Diana put the deal. Yela Basho, Yabulek Sing Abugulek, Benkir Maziste. Benkir Maziste. You start singing. So, what did Kir do? Lom Shukran, Angelo Beda, Uyunu Big Hammer, Gadayi, I Lom Buyun Cup, Jelakanda Zado Cup, Bucket the Tefa, Sugar Tefa. He wasn't smiling if you saw the day when his report was given to him. He took the report. Meeting don't even last an hour. He took the report. The report will answer. I don't know, Duri there. You have to ask the 10 week where in J1 they have put the report with a national dialogue. Was that really a national dialogue? A people's dialogue? People are supreme to the regime and to the government and to the president. If it was truly people's resolution, will his place be in the desk of the president? Under the desk? We don't even know where it is now, Zadlo Maharago. We don't know where it is. It's done and dusted. Kir made a presidential decree appointing members of the national dialogue with a heading paper in al-Maktab Betao from his own printer. The report ended up again in that drawer. So, Min Maktab Rais, Gharar Tala. In Maktab Rais, the resolution of national dialogue died and buried. That is not what we envisage in the roundtable conference. Roundtable conference, the Haywan Bukun Kabir. By then, Kiro the Hudu Tarabezo Bad Kir. Mabuzul roundtable resolution for Tarabeza, but Mabukush will be too big for anybody, individual. So, this is the difference. It will be an inclusive people covenant. And nobody will be given that God-given right to determine and sit on the opinions of the majority of the people of South Sudan. We are not going to hold a roundtable conference where the resolution will be under the desk of Kir Mayadi. It will never happen. It will be people-owned. It will be people who will be implementing these resolutions of roundtable conference. And anybody that goes against the people's objectives and people's call for change, that person will be taken out. And I always say, the roundtable conference resolution will be like a tsunami. Anybody who stands in front of it will be washed away. And that's the difference, my sister, for your question that you have asked, Amel, and I hope I've answered it faithfully. And thank you for sorry for taking long.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Brother Rajab.
Yes, allow me add to the responses provided by Ambassador Emmanuel. In the first question that says the roundtable conference is because the opposition has failed. For the sake of this argument, let's assume that yes, the opposition has actually failed, totally failed. Now, let us go to South Sudan if we understand what failure is. You read all reports about South Sudan. In the fragility index, you will find that we are among the most fragile states in the world. You go to corruption reports of Transparency International, you'll find that we are among the most corrupt in the world. You talk about issues of safety, we are the most unsafe in the world. In fact, for those of you who lived in the liberated areas until the CPA time, people were traveling day and night during the war. Vehicles would travel even in areas where there are enemies. Vehicles would pass, and the SPLA forces at the time would direct you and say, go this way. If it was not so safe, they would even assign soldiers to accompany you and all that. Vehicles were moving throughout, day and night. And we were moving from Maridi to Yei through Rasuola and Torre, the shortest connection. Now we have been independent for all these years, as you may know, since 2011. Today, we cannot move freely anymore along those roads. Those roads have dilapidated. They are even closing now. They are unsafe, and they are not usable at the moment. So the easiest and safest way to travel between Yei and Maridi, Yei and Juba, Maridi and Juba, and the other towns in the country, I'm coming from Western Equatoria, that's why I'm using those places, is to use a flight. So we have failed to the extent that everyone actually knows. In fact, I remember a president in one of the neighboring countries once said, if the situation in his country reached the level in South Sudan, he would commit suicide. The whole president, a very close friend of our government, said he would commit suicide. And so our country, I don't know if it will even fail any further from where it is right now. The most unfortunate thing is that we really close our eyes to this terrible failure. You go and look at the Facebook page of our president. It is almost the whole news is that the president met so and so, the president was briefed by so and so, the president met so and so, the president was briefed on security by his governor so and so. That is the entire work. And then you would only see pictures of people sitting down, and that's all. So actually, as Emmanuel Ajawin was saying, that the country is reduced to Juba, it is almost even reduced to J1 for the president. And so the level of failure of the government is terrible. If in the best case scenario, one would actually have expected that the president would take the initiative to call for such a roundtable conference. In fact, we used to say when he announced the national dialogue that the best case scenario was for him to go and convene all these guys, his former comrades, and say, my brothers and sisters, things are not right with our country. What do we do? Let us talk about this. You do not need a mediator. You do not need to go to Rome in order to discuss those issues. Fortunately, all of these are people who have been in the trenches fighting for South Sudan, and they know why South Sudanese were fighting. And so it is not really honest to say that the opposition has failed. Well, if you analyze the situation of South Sudan in relation to countries in the region and the rest of the world, we are in a very terrible shape. And that cannot be blamed on an opposition. Opposition groups play a role, a limited role. The role of running a state, a functional state, is premised on the government. The issue of saying this roundtable conference is for like-minded groups, and so others will not be accepted. I want to suggest this to the moderators, that if there is a better language to say that this roundtable conference is uninclusive and all-inclusive, that everyone is invited to participate. And of course, we say that because not all 8 or 12 million of us, depending on the number you know, will sit realistically in a hall to discuss this, there will be like some level of selection to ensure that maximum representation is there. That this is open. This is a song that we have been singing throughout. Ambassador Emmanuel has been singing this. Everyone else who has talked about this national dialogue from the National Consensus Forum has said this. But if, of course, our language is not very clear on that, we should be informed to find a better language to say that This is open to all South Sudanese. You can participate directly if we have enough room, and you can participate indirectly by sending your input to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajaf. There's a question here. The question is for Ambassador Ajawin. However, I want you, Brother Rajaf, to answer, and then maybe because you are the chairperson of the NCF, and then maybe if Emmanuel Ajawin wants to add to it, that he can go ahead. The question is from Mr. Benjamin, and the question is there a process in reaching out the young people to get involved in the roundtable? If so, how can the main actors access and encourage the youth to increase participation?
Okay, thank you. I shared a platform recently in a clubhouse like this, and I said, when IGAD issued a statement in June 2017, accepting that the agreement was, the 2015 agreement was no longer making progress and it should be revitalized. That statement came in one paragraph in a communique from IGAD. Now, we were civil society leaders and we did not wait for IGAD to reach out to us individually, look for all the South Sudanese civil society members in Juba and the rest of the states. We took it upon ourselves as a responsibility. And actually, we constituted what we call the South Sudan Civil Society Forum. The idea was to push for a process of the revitalization of the peace agreement and to contribute to that process. And so we started having discussions, doing analysis, and sharing our recommendations with IGAD. And we did that quite a lot. Now, the young people, the reason the young people are the ones, first of all, dominating the social media. Now, we sit on the social media for 4 or 5 hours talking about the Roundtable the Roundtable Conference. If we have concerned young people and serious ones interested to contribute to the cause of change in our country, they do not have to sit and wait. By doing this kind of public engagement, it is meant to reach out to everyone because, again, realistically, it is not possible to move out with the letters and deliver to the hand of every young South Sudanese. And so once you get the message, the statements being released, this message is here now, you take an initiative. That is what we call responsible citizenship. The young people should be active constructively to take lead in following up on this. Now, for example, it's Emmanuel Ajawin who talks about this here. Now, do you still need someone to tell you to reach out to Emmanuel Ajawin to guide you on how you get to this process? If you find me speaking about this, I am available on the social media. You should be able to reach me. So let us use these opportunities of engagement to try to connect to these processes. There is only so much that the process would do to be able to reach out. It will reach out through public statements. Soon there will be a website to be sending out the information and possibly with contacts for people to reach. But also these public discourse are meant to reach out. So the young people should not sit back and wait. And this applies to all South Sudanese. Now, we have actually said the youth, and Ambassador talked about it, the youth, the women, everyone else. It is time for us to come together and demand that this situation in our country must stop because it is just unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. Ambassador Emmanuel, if you have anything to add, you can go ahead. Otherwise, I'll go to the next question.
No, it's good. It's better to go to the next question because I also see people here on the platform.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead. Some of the question in the comment section, I'll come back later to you guys. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Weljok. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your names right. You can go ahead and ask your question.
أنا question حقيقة يكون للأستاذ إيمانويل My question is why all oppositions, leaders, or just personnel or activists focus only on the issues that concern the leadership in the country instead of sharing the knowledge that they have, as they said, to the people of South Sudan, because the same people are the same people who can produce leaders, good leaders, if they need a change in the country. Why do they focus all their efforts is how to change the leadership? I'm not here supporting or just talking, just keep the interests of some leaders who are in the power. I'm talking as a concern, as a citizen that deserve to benefit at least from those who talk on behalf of them at the side of opposition. Well, again, I can add some points that let me at least say this opinion. وأنا بوصله للأستاذ إيمانويل بالعربي لأنه هو طبعا بيجيد العربية أكثر من إنجليزية، مع إنه هو طبعا أقام في كندا ولا واحد من الدول لأكثر من كم سنة، لكن إنجليزي ولسه شوية ما تقليلا يعني. فهو طبعا على النيل هو المصدر بتاع إنتاج الحروب وساحة ذات بتاع المشاكل في جنوب السودان عامة أو مكان البلاوي ذات على النيل في الحروب. بعدين ما تنسوا سؤالية، أنا بس أخلص بوين حقي. على النيل اللي فيه حروب وفيه حاجات كتير يعني محتاج يعني إسحامات أو على الأقل إضافات بتاع، لكن للأسف نيجي نلقى إنه في نوع من انحياز والوقوف مع بعض من الإثنيات والتجاهل وعدم التعاطف أو الوقوف معهم في حالات بتاعت ظلمهم. وأنا هنا بتكلم على مستوى بتاعت مقاطعة ملوط، يعني مقاطعة ملوط عام 2015 واحد اتمرد لمبررات في شخصية وشال الأسلحة من حكومة فات هاجم أبناء ملوط فقط لأنهم دينكا ودون أي مبرر آخر. هاجمهم دير قتل المواطنين وفقط لأنهم دينكا. غير ذلك عام 2013 لما حصل حاجة في الدولة، وده حقائق لابد من إنه يتكلم فيه، يعني عشان ما يجي زول يقول والله ما له علاقة بالتوفيق، ونحن لو ذات ما يتكلمنا عن حقائق يعني إيه فائدة بتاع التوفيق يعني. فهاجموهم برضو مع بعض 2013 14 فقط لأنهم دينكا. وأنا هنا يعني لما أتكلم عن الحاجات زي ده لا يعني أنني غبل يعني، لأنه لما يحدث حاجة ويكون بغرض تصفية أو إنهاء أو إبادة ذات لكم لبعض من المبررات يعني، وده حاجة برضو يعني يكون كمحدد. هنا لما أتكلم لا يعني إنه أنا غبل زي ما هو بيتكلم وغيرهم زاد يعني بيتكلموا عن قضايا بتاعت إثنية معينة، فلا يعني إنهم غبليون. فحصل حاجة في جوبا وكلنا عارفين في نهاية ديلك لما حصل حاجة في جوبا بدلا من إنه هم يشوفوا دي الناس منو اللي عملوا، جو على النيل واستهدفوا بعض من المجموعات الثقافية أو مكون واحد من مكونات الدينكا فقط لأنهم دينكا، مع إنه ممكن ما تلقى واحد فيهم زاد وزير في الدولة ولا ماسك له حاجة في الدولة ولا.
يا اسمع
خلينا
كده دقيقة كده خليك انت اول حاجة انت ماشي في خط ثاني براك. انت لو جيت هنا اسال سؤال بتاعك بعد ما يجاوبوا السؤال بتاعك وعندك سؤال في موضوع القتل اللي حصل ده اسال كشكل سؤال، لكن انت ما جاي هنا عشان تعمل برزنتيشن باي ذا واي ماي براذر. فانا احترامي لك.
خلاص
هاي
نعمل كونكلوشن
خلص.
لانه نعمل كونكلوشن حاليا. حاليا قبل ساعات وامبارح برضه يعني واول امبارح حاصل حاجه داخل المقاطعة ملوط، وفتنه بتاعت حزب IO دخل للمقاطعة واستقطبوا لهم كم معاهدة وقيادات داخل مقاطعة معبان، وقالوا لهم حق في البترول يعني داخل المنطقة. وفي نهاية يعني الوزير بتاع البترول جاي يعتذر اللي اسمه الوزير الأسبق يعني.
شكرا.
حاجة اللي حصل للآن أنا ما شفت الناس الفوق أو اللي هو حاليا عامل له قومة ده يعني ما يتكلم عن الموضوع ده.
خلاص انت يا اخونا ممكن برنامجك ده جيبه في شكل توبيك عشان نتناقش فوقه. انت ما تخلط لنا الامور حسي، ده هو المشكله اللي قاعدين نخلي انه ننزل وناس تهت. انت اسال سؤالك لو في اي سؤال بيجاوبوك على البرنامج اللي احنا اتكلمنا فيه، لكن ما تخلط لنا الاوراق. انت عندك برنامج حصل مثلا في على النيل في منطقه معينه، في بلاتفورم موجوده وجه لهم هذا البرنامج وهم بيجيبوه عشان يناقشوا. فشكرا جزيلا. انا بوقفك هنا لانه نحن ماشيين في اتجاه غلط هسي، وما قال عشان المشاكل دي ما في المشاكل جنوب السودان دي كلها فيه، عشان كده دايرين نناقش فيها في الراوند تيبل. فنحن هسي قاعدين نتكلم في الراوند تيبل، وحدد الاسئله بتاعتك على النطق بتاع البرزنتيشن بتاعت الناس اللي اتكلموا. ف Ambassador Emmanuel, please can you answer the question that where our brother answer? Ask.
لا thank you عبد الصبور. اولا نشكر الاخ ويل جوك انا عملت برونايزيشن لاسمه. وسأل انا ما اعرف السؤال بتاعه بالانجليزي ما مفهوم، يعني قال شنو؟ قال why all opposition leaders focus only the issues concern the leadership rather than sharing information. فده ما سؤال في حد ذاته. لو كان سأل بعربي كان احسن. هو بيقول لي قال لي ما بجيب انجليزي قاعد 20 سنه، زول عجيب جدا. فالمهم ما طرح سؤال اللي يستحق الرد عليه. السؤال اللي هو ساوى باللغه الانجليزيه ده انا ما فهمته كله لانه الانجليزي كان تعبان جدا وركيك. فانا ما اعرف لو مجازم انت فهمت السؤال بتاعه بانجليزي ممكن
هاي خلي هو قصده شنو؟ قصده ليه مثلا يعني القيادات بتاعت المعارضه بيهاجموا مثلا الشخصيات السياسيه الموجوده مثلا في البلاد اللي ماسكه زمام الامور، يعني بغض النظر انه
شغل المعارضه كان شنو يعني؟ كان عامل لهم شنو يدوم علاوه؟
فالمفروض انتوا تتكلموا في المواضيع الحقيقيه او نتكلم مواضيع الحقيقيه وليس مثلا مهاجمه الاشخاص، يعني ده مفهومه مثلا.
يا افتكر الولد ما افتكر هو ما فاهم الكلام اللي احنا بنتكلم فيه عجيبين. يعني معلش عنده عذر بتاعه، ممكن هو بيتكلم عربي اكثر ما يفهم انجليزي. لانه لو كان فهم الكلام بتاعنا من البدايه ويل جوك كنت اتلمست من كلامنا. تكلمنا عن جذور الازمه، تكلمنا عن الوضع الاقتصادي، تكلمنا عن الوضع القانوني، تكلمنا كثير. لكن انا افتكر اخونا برا الشبكه كومبليتلي جاي بحماس بمشكله الملوط، ونحن طبعا حاسين بكل المشاكل في جنوب السودان، ما ملوط براه، الجنوب كله جاي. فانا بدأوا بانه لو عنده فرصه يعمل لهم منبر في الكلاب هاوس بتاع لما هو في الكلاب هاوس ممكن يفتح منبر ويناقش القضيه بتاعه. لو عاوز يعزم ناس يعزم الناس، لكن انا شايف السؤال بتاعه ده ما سؤال يعني يستاهل الاجابه، لانه سؤال مخلوط ومفاهيم ذاته يعني ما منظمه. شكرا.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Mujassib, and thank you, Ambassador Emmanuel. Before we move to the next person, I just wanted to let everyone in the podium know, if you come up here, just convey your question, please, for the speakers to answer. And then let your question be on topic. Let's not talk about other topic or other issues, because if you want to talk about other issues, you can open a room, or if we have, you can let us know. Next time we can open a room and talk about whatever issues that you want. However, today the topic is about the roundtable and the NCF. So please focus on that. I'll go ahead and then pass the mic to Madam Secretary. you guys hear me? Your voice is very low, so can you raise your voice, please? It's still low. If you're using headset, or maybe you should take it off. Let me exit and come back. You can go to George. If that's okay. Yeah, go ahead, leave the room and come back. Maybe that will help. Okay, while we're waiting for Madam Secretary to come back, I can just go ahead and pass the mic to George. George, you may go ahead and convey your question.
My greeting to all of you. My question is, what are the reaction of the region in regard to the roundtable conference? Are they happy to contribute by convincing the regime to join such an important demand of the people of South Sudan? Only one question. Thank you.
Okay, Ambassador Manuel, you may go ahead and answer the question, and then
Thank you, Brother George, for coming and asking a question. Yes, we, as I said, we already started our diplomatic campaign, starting with the Troika and European Union. We are also trying to reach out to the leaders in the region, especially those countries neighboring us. We will also be engaging with them because it's important to bring them on board. So there is a plan to engage with them. We have reached out to them and we are waiting for confirmation of meeting. So yes, we will be reaching out to the leaders in the region. We'll also be reaching to the African Union. We already met with the United Nations representative for South Sudan, the head of UNMISS. We want to meet the African Union. We'll also meet the IGAD countries also individually. And we also would like to meet some influential countries in Africa. So all this in the pipe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Manuel. Brother Rajab, if you have any other additional comment to that question, you may go ahead. Otherwise, we'll move to Dao.
Maybe just a small comment is that while we mobilize the region and the international community to support the process, we feel that this should be a South Sudanese-led process. A South Sudanese pressure is needed to effect a change in our country. The reactions of the international community will also be guided by our actions. If we are too reluctant, we keep sleeping, and our country faces this situation, why should people from across the oceans be concerned? Why should those in other countries be concerned? So we should really take the first initiative to shout at the top of our voices that things are not right, and the rest will come to our aid. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Rajab. Actually, I see Madam Secretary is back. So, Madam Secretary, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Loud and clear.
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you, Sister Pam, for the opportunity, Brother Rajab, Majasif, Ambassador Emmanuel, Dow, and Kelmaten. My question, I'll ask Ambassador Emmanuel. It's about maybe 3 questions in one question, if that makes any sense. I understand that the roundtable extended an invitation to the government or the president or the regime. What will be the consequences if they refuse to attend the roundtable? What will be the next? What will be the next step? And if they said yes, we'll attend the roundtable, but there are conditions to that roundtable that you must come to Juba. What would be your answer? Or would you go to Juba? Would you say no? What is the specific place that the roundtable comfortable with that everybody should go and attend? And my third question would be, how or what are you doing about reaching out to people that are not in Juba, in diaspora, or in camps? Since I heard earlier that the roundtable is open for for everybody to attend the roundtable. What are you or the committee are doing about making everything possible for everyone, since it's open for everybody? And how are you convincing those who are elected about attending this roundtable? Thank you.
Ambassador Emmanuel, you may go ahead and answer the question.
Oh, okay. Thank you. First, let me thank Sister Madam Secretary for your tough questions, but these are questions that are pertinent and they must be answered. First of all, let me answer your first question regarding whether we have extended an invitation to the regime. We have not. We have not extended an invitation to the regime. But of course, there is the mediators reaching out to the government to bring them around a table with us to discuss the issues of the roundtable conference. It is then, of course, we'll have the opportunity as the members of National Consensus Forum to tell the regime about what we have in terms of the roundtable, what we envisage from it, and we'll understand their reaction. There's a question of follow-up. What about if the regime do come up with the preconditions and they would want the roundtable to be convened in Juba? As a starter, we are saying that the participation in roundtable conference should not be a subject of negotiations and and pre-negotiations. Therefore, nobody is coming with preconditions. Neither are we in the NCF coming with the preconditions for the regime to participate. Neither do we expect the regime to come with these preconditions. If regarding the location, it is a humble opinion based on the security threat and assessment, and also given the fact that South Sudan has never been conducive in terms of having a dialogue in a conducive environment where people could sit down and discuss things freely, far from intimidation. Given these conditions, South Sudan is not, especially Juba or anywhere in South Sudan, it's not ideal for holding such an important and a critical conference that will determine the future of the country. It must be in a place that we are all comfortable, be it the government or the opposition. So the locality or the venue of the conference will be agreed collectively in the discussion. So this, of course, when we meet with the government, we'll try to find out an amicable solution and where we can hold this roundtable conference. What are you doing to reach out to the people in camps and refugees and people in diaspora? My dear sister, Madam Secretary, if you recall, our first calls that we sent as a document, as NCF, we call upon the people of South Sudan to join us in this noble venture of the Roundtable Conference. And in response to this call, many have responded positively and they have applied and they have joined us. And as I said, the NCF is growing in numbers, and this is what we want. And Rajab talked about it earlier, about how the examples of roundtable or what he calls national dialogues that have been held in different countries. It could start from 100 to 300 to medium to almost 3,000 people congregating to discuss the future of their country. So we have reached out in terms of our talks in the clubhouse and other social venues and avenues, expressing our readiness to consider anyone who wants to join us. So it is up to the people after this call to reach out to us and express their interest, because it is very difficult for us to go to each and every house in South Sudan to ask them whether you want to join the roundtable or not. But it is now clear that they know where we are, they know the contact points that we have been giving to them, and they know where to reach us. So if anybody is truly interested to participate in the roundtable conference, they will do that. Coming to your last question, how are you convincing those? Well, this is what we're having, this is what we're doing. We are coming day in, day out. Different colleagues, Rajab, all of our colleagues are coming and talking with the people of South Sudan, precisely first to make them understand what are the main objectives of the roundtable conference. This is very important. Okay. Secondly, to also hear their views of how we could perfect this roundtable conference, and also to hear if there are other ideas that could be also incorporated into the roundtable conference. And this is through the dialogue that we are having, as we are having with you today. So anyone having a shadow of doubt, of course, or having questions, the only way to answer them is by them participating in these debates that we are having in the social media, and will be available to answer them. We are trying to make people understand rather than convincing, but to make them understand the importance and how the roundtable could be a formula in resolving the economic and social and political crisis in our country. So if they do understand it, and if they feel also that this could be a forum to discuss issues and we could reach an amicable solution, then that's fine. So this is my answers. Perhaps my brother Rajab may have anything to add to your questions that you've asked. Thank you.
Brother Rajab, if you have any additional, you may go ahead.
Ambassador has.
I just forgot one thing. Madam, also Secretary asked that in case the government refuse, yes, she says, what are the consequences if the Juba refuse to attend the roundtable conference? As much as we would like this roundtable conference to be inclusive in nature and scope, it means that if the government do come and we all congregate in the roundtable and we all agree and come up with resolutions that will resolve all the issues that we have raised, the root cause of the conflict, it will be easier then to form a new government that we have been advocating for, and that would have saved the country from the cost of the continuous conflict, But if the government chooses to boycott the roundtable conference, it does not stop us as the people of South Sudan to continue with the roundtable conference, because we believe it is a first opportunity for the people of South Sudan to congregate around a table, be it round or square. But when we say roundtable conference, it is in the understanding mathematically that all the sides are equal, and therefore anyone that sits on that table is sitting, or she is sitting on that table, equal to the opposite side. No one will sit there because I know Kuma, I should talk more, or I should dictate. No, we'll be sitting there as equal partners. We will continue as a people of South Sudan. The resolutions that will come will also have in it, if the government refuses, how to deal with that government, because it will mean that the government is an obstacle to the peace and security in South Sudan, and hence the people of South Sudan must also agree on methodology of how to bring a regime change so that they could have a truly people's government that will implement the resolutions of the Roundtable Conference. So whether they come or they don't, they will not stop the Roundtable Conference from convening. We will continue either with them or without them. So the choice is theirs. Thank you.
Let me add something briefly. Sorry. Yes, let me add to this specifically on the question of the government. There are people who, there are people who are so frustrated by the conduct of the government, the way the government is running our country, that they feel that getting the government to the Roundtable Conference is even a mistake. Talking to the government alone is even a mistake. Now, and others feel that the whole thing should just be a way to get the government out completely, so that South Sudan can breathe some fresh air out after all this crisis. Now, it is important to send an invitation to the government to participate, and of course the agenda for this Roundtable Conference is important. That the transition is not viable, and now the country needs to move out of this. So it is going to be bad for the government in two ways. The government is in a catch-22 situation. If it responds and attends this Roundtable Conference, it's going to find it difficult to suppress the voices of the people. If it refuses to participate in the Roundtable Conference, it's going to find it also difficult to explain why it is unable to deliver peace in South Sudan, and it is also refusing to participate in a process that will deliver peace in the country. So the government, because of its own behavior, is getting cornered very badly. First, it has demonstrated to the public, the South Sudanese public and the international community, that it is just unwilling, either unwilling or incapable, or both, to deliver peace and viable transition to South Sudanese. So it is in a bad shape, whether it comes or it doesn't come. Both of these still puts the government in a very bad shape because of the way it is behaving and not delivering on the core functions of government. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. Before we move to the next person to ask the question, I just wanted to let the audience know that we turned off the hand raise button simply because we actually exceeded the time that we aim to be here. And if you wrote a question in the comment section, there's few questions that I skipped, and the reason is because those questions are answered. If you missed the answer to those questions, you can listen to the replay. There's a question about whether separatists are able to join the roundtable. I believe both Ambassador Emmanuel and Brother Rajab answered that yes, and they went deeper to explain. Also, there is this question about what will happen if Salva Kiir refused to join the roundtable, which Ambassador Emmanuel just answered. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Sister Kilmatin. You can ask your question, and then after that, we'll move to Brother Dow. Sister Kilmatin, the mic is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Pam. I'm sorry, I'm under the weather, so my voice might be sounding weird, but it's the same. Thank you, Ustaz Rajab and Mohandes Emmanuel, the host, Joseph, and everyone else up here, plus the audience down there. My question has to do with the selection process of the delegates to the Roundtable Conference. Its authenticity. We know that as South Sudanese, since we are getting so it's getting so nerve-wracking in terms of trusting officials because of all that has been going. And of course, at one point, you have to be trusting people in leadership. So with that, I'm just wondering, what's the process in terms of the delegates selection? The question I'm asking is, I really feel that the roundtable conference, it is an excellent idea that could lead into actually people understanding what exactly are the root causes of the problem, and where do we, how do we get out of this, and what's the process that can get us where we want to get. With that being said, I think we all remember when Corona first hit. For me, that was the first time I realized that the opposition leader by then, Riek Machar, had appointed his own son's mother-in-law as Minister of Health. Thankfully, she couldn't pronounce coronavirus. Not the question of how is she gonna manage it, or even like in a country that's starting from scratch. Like imagine appointing somebody like that. So with that in mind, my question is, how are you going to make sure that at the roundtable conference are not concubines or people who have leadership positions that are manipulating, or are not family members or friends or close relatives? What's the authenticity of the selection process? I think that's my question. And because, as I said earlier, it's becoming really, really scary, trusting almost any process. So to restore confidence in the government, what is the selection process? Thank you.
Okay, let me respond to this. First, we're learning from similar processes that occurred before. And we're looking at selection criteria which similar processes had used. We have not endorsed any formal process for selection of participants. But first, we were saying that this process is open to all South Sudanese, individuals and institutions. But because it is unrealistic to have all of us, South Sudanese, in all our diversities and the entire population and institutions that we have to participate, to sit in one room, definitely then we will have to select from this big number that we have. So one, we will consider issues of diversity, issues of institutions, and then we will also encourage like institutions that are going to recommend or send in representatives, that they do so in a manner that they send in representatives who are able or have some level of competence to be able to articulate these critical national issues and so forth. So there are basic criteria that would be identified. Now, as much as the interest is to have all South Sudanese participate, logistically it is unrealistic to have everyone. And for that reason, this selection will be done, but there are ways to participate indirectly. For example, during the RRC's negotiations, civil society members who were invited as delegates were very few, less than 20. Now, we had so many of our colleagues who were not invited as delegates. Some of them, for example, the women groups and the youth groups, organized and went to the venue, and they spent their time at the corridors discussing, sharing their concerns and views and papers with the delegates, delegates of the different political actors, and also with the civil society representatives, those who are delegates sitting in the hall. So if you are not able to get into the hall to participate because there may be too many selected, you can still participate by either going to the venue and sharing your views, talking to the actors, or you can participate by sharing documents. For those who are able to write, you can put down your position on some of the issues. If your interest is on the constitution, if your interest is on the governance issues, if your interest is on transitional justice, or whichever, those that will be discussed, you can write about that and share. And I remember in the 2015 peace talks of the South Sudanese, civil society did a commendable job and wrote a position paper that formed the basis of chapter 5 of the peace agreement, which was on transitional justice. So there are two ways we can participate if we find ourselves through the selection process. we will participate directly as delegates, hopefully. If not, then we should participate indirectly, send our position, our papers, or even call or talk directly to those who will be delegates in the talks. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. Ambassador Emmanuel, if you have anything to add to that question, you may go ahead.
Yeah, I thank our sister Kalma Ten, and she's precisely on the spot because, you know, in South Sudan, there are a lot of cowboys there, and cow women too, especially when it comes to civil society, women organizations, and so forth. As you said correctly, some of them are government affiliates, some of them are somehow, questionable reputation. There's no doubt that joining such a august and meaningful forum will require, certain scrutiny. As you said, we don't want the people of coronavirus also coming to that conference. But nevertheless, we feel that we also want people who will constructively engage with us so that we could move the country forward without unwarranted exclusion. So your concern is really well placed. So that is something also we are putting into consideration, and as Rajab has answered to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Emmanuel. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Brother Dow. Brother Dow, if you have a question or comment, you may go ahead. The mic is yours.
Yeah, I think let me just get a chance here, and I would like to welcome Brother Dow as one of our colleagues, and of course, he's the Secretary General of NDM Patriotic Front. He had an issue with the internet before, that's why he was dropping down. And some people wrote me, they said that maybe I dropped him, and in the comments and this kind of thing. So, but I would like to say no, we don't drop him. It just was the issue of the internet, and he's most welcome. الأمين العام بتاعت الNDM Patriotic Front اتفضل فرصة لك يعني.
Thank you. شكرا زميل مجازف معالي السفير أستاذة بيم وباشمهندس رجب والأوديان تحت. I hope صوتكم واضح. عندنا إشكالية في الشبكة. في البداية أفتكر إنه الشرح كان واضح بالنسبة للراوند تيبل والطرح اللي تم طرحه. الإشكالية اللي موجود إنه الناس ما شايفين الواقع اللي وصل فيه جنوب السودان والواقع اللي بنعاني منه المواطن البسيط في جنوب السودان. فالخيار الأفضل والخيار الأحسن في الظروف الوقت الراهن اللي احنا قاعدين فيه بنفضل إنه المعدة المستنيرة round table قد تكون بتحل جذور الأزمة اللي بتعاني منه جنوب السودان كدولة كامل. بعد ذلك ننظر للمعاناة المواطن الجنوبي اللي قاعد يعاني على مستوى بتاعت البلاد. ننظر شكلية القلة النخبة اللي حاكمة في جنوب السودان بيتمتعوا بالموارد بتاعت الدولة على حساب الشعب وعلى حساب الجنوبيين وعلى حساب الأجيال اللي حتجي في جنوب السودان. لما نعمل مقارنة جنوب السودان في عهد بتاع كير بدون رياض، المنتاليتي اللي كانت ماشي بيه جنوب السودان كانت ماشي في الحاوية. بعد الاتفاقية بتاعت 2018 انضمت الحاوية، بدت كارثة. قيام رؤية كامل لإدارة بتاعت الدولة، نتكلم عن إدارة الدولة اللي بيعاني منه كل مواطن جنوبي على مستوى بتاعت الولايات، على مستوى بتاعت المقاطعات، على مستوى بتاعت المحليات، على مستوى بتاعت غيابة الاستقرار. لما يجيك واحد واعي مثقف بينظر للطرح المعارضة، ما بينظر للطرح السلوكيات. الحكومة اللي قاعد في جوبا، الجنوبيين اللي قاعدين في الرومس حاليا عينوا شكل الدولة، ومعالي السفير قبل يتكلم عن الوضع النظام الاقتصادي اللي معمولين به في جنوب السودان. وروني يا الدولة الموظفين بتاعه بيصرفوا بالعملة الأجنبية في الدولة. انتوا قاعدين في دول مختلفة، اللي قاعدين في دول المحكمة، اللي قاعدين في أمريكا، اللي قاعدين في بريطانيا، في كندا، في إيجيبت، في الدول إلا في جنوب السودان. ياتوا دولة الموظف بتاعت الحكومة بيصرف بالعملة الصعبة مقابل العملة بتاعت الدولة بتصرف. ياتوا نظام اقتصادي معمول له. دولة لما يصرف فيه 650 عضو برلمان بالعملة الصعبة بالدولار، إنه المؤسسات اللي قاعدة داخل الدولة ما قاعدة تتحصل على مرتبات. ده شكل الدولة احنا دايرينه كجنوبيين؟ ده شكل الدولة اللي احنا اتفقنا عليه؟ مناطق النفط اللي ذكروا واحد من المتحدثين اللي طلعوا فوق، الليلة بيموتوا فيه آلاف من الأطفال. أنت كواعي كمثقف طرحت الإشكالية، عشان كده قاعد نقول إنه راوند تيبل المؤتمر المعدة المصرية ده بيعني إعادة بناء دولة جنوب السودان يبقيها دولة المؤسسات ما دولة الأفراد. دولة يسود فيه القانون، الدستور، النظام الاقتصادي، الاستقرار، البنية التحتية، المواطنة. ده كل المسائل دي تتم عبر النقاش، عبر الحوار. بعدين الناس بتتسأل طرحنا المؤتمر المعدة المصرية لإنقاذ جنوب السودان، ما شان الأفراد ولا شان سلفكير ولا شان رياض مشار ولا شان يانديك ولا شان وانيجا ولا شان تابانديك. طرحنا دي عشان نبني بلد جنوب السودان يستغل فيه المواطن اللي بيعاني. هم مسألة أفراد، مسألة بتاعت الأمة محتاج للاستقرار، محتاج للأمن، محتاج للتنمية، محتاج للتعليم، محتاج للصحة. المسائل دي ما بتجي سهل. عشان كده مؤتمر المعدة المصرية ده بيحل جذور المشكلة اللي بيعاني منه جنوب السودان. بتاع جنوب السودان كدولة بتاعت المؤسسات ما دولة الأفراد. أفتكر الإخوة تحدثوا كثيرا، وضحوا. المحاضرة كانت طويلة وكنت مستمع، ما حقدر أضيف حاجة. ده اللي التوضيح أنا كنت داير أوضحه للناس اللي بتساعدني. شكرا بجازم.
شكرا أستاذ داو أمين العام Indian Patriotic Front زميل. Sister Pam, I think we are coming to the end. And if you have some question for our guests over Ambassador Emmanuel and Rajab Mohandis, you can go further, or otherwise you give them to conclude. And then we have to end the room, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mujasif. I don't have any further questions, so we'll just go ahead and then give them chance to go ahead and conclude and give their last remark. So I will go ahead and start with Brother Rajab to give his concluding remark, and then we'll come to Ambassador Emmanuel, and then we'll close the room. So Brother Rajab, go ahead, the mic is yours.
Good. Thank you very much, Sister Pam and Brother Mujazif for organizing this conversation. I also extend my appreciation to all those who managed to raise questions, and thank Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin for providing those responses and reinforcing some of the answers that I provided. It is important. I mean, it's encouraging and motivating that we are able to sit together like this as South Sudanese to discuss these issues, even just to listen to these conversations. It indicates that we are genuinely concerned about the situation in our country, and if we're given the opportunity, we would participate and contribute meaningfully to the cause of change in South Sudan. The Roundtable Conference is one opportunity. It's one process suggested to help us contribute to delivering a new political dispensation in South Sudan. And so it is incumbent upon us to follow this.
Brother Rajab, my apologies. Can you raise your voice just a little bit? Because some people don't.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my internet is getting weak, but
yeah, if you can raise your voice just a little bit, because the people down they cannot hear you clearly.
Yes, good. Okay, so the message here is that the Roundtable Conference is being organized, and so let us carry the message around to fellow South Sudanese who may not necessarily be following in the clubhouses. And then it is also important for us to share our views with the organizers so that we can help shape the process to what we think would be more helpful and more constructive. The process is ongoing. The documents are being developed that would help guide the process, and nothing is cast on stone. What is definite is that we need to sit and talk among ourselves as South Sudanese in order to reach consensus on how we move our country out of this crisis. But what is not definite is the specifics. We are still putting ideas together, so there's plenty of room for us to make suggestions and shape this process moving forward. Once again, I thank all of you for your participation in this discussion tonight. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Rajab. Once more, thank you for honoring our request and joining us today. In South Sudan, it's not a cup of tea, so I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Ambassador Emmanuel to give his last submission.
Thank you, Sister Palm, for having invited me, and also let me extend my thanks also to Brother Mujazif and to Brother Rajab, being one of the leaders of the NCF, to avail his time too, although it's very late in Africa, to come and talk to us. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the Secretary General of NDM Patriotic Front, Mr. Dow, who came and spoke. And also let me acknowledge also those who have come and expressed their opinion, even if it's contrary to the views that we're expressing, and to the audience that have been listening faithfully. It also is an indication that the Roundtable Conference is gaining momentum. It is an idea that is workable. It is an idea that is, if it's supported fully by the people of South Sudan, could usher into a new political dispensation in our country, and could resolve the carnage and the killing and suffering of our people. We shall continue debating, and I urge you through South Sudan is not a cup of tea, to continue having this kind of dialogue, so that by the time we reach the Roundtable Conference, each and every South Sudanese know very well the objective of the Roundtable Conference and what we expect from the Roundtable Conference. We need to change the psychic of our people, that you cannot shoot your way through economical and social problems. It can only be resolved through us sitting down together, discussing and charting the future of our country. So it was an honor to be with you here. And I hope in the coming days we will continue having these debates. And I urge you in the South Sudan's Not Cup of Tea to at least next time not only look at the procedural aspect of the roundtable conference, but looking also at the root cause of the conflict, so that we could start having a constructive discussion on ideas. Because now we already done a lot in terms of the procedural aspect of the roundtable conference. What is roundtable conference? Who will be invited, and so forth. Now we need to move to the substantive aspect of the discussion of the roundtable conference, so that we could also have ideas, and others also could generate and contribute with the ideas, so that we could all together come up with a roundtable conference that would resolve the issues and the ills in our country. So with that, I wish you a good night or good evening or good afternoon, whatever you may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Emmanuel. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Brother Mujassif. Brother Mujassif, the mic is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Pram. I would like also to acknowledge my colleague, first of all, the chairman of NDM Patriotic Front, the general secretary of SOMA, one of the leaders of the round table, for being with us here in the South Sudan is not a cup of tea. We appreciate that you accept our invitation to come over here so that you also present the issue of the round table, because there is a lot of questions, a lot of allegations that's coming from the mind of the citizen of South Sudan, but hopefully that you are here to answer them. And also I would like to acknowledge my chairman of the committee of NCF, Mr. Rajab, that really, you did a good job, that, what we discussed in the committee that you presented today, for all the South Sudanese also to hear and to know more further about what is going on in the committees, and also about the round table, that I acknowledge that. And also I would like to acknowledge my colleague, Brother Dow, the General Secretary of NDM Patriotic Front. Also, I would like to acknowledge my team member, Sister Pam, who've been here in this discussion. That also I would like to acknowledge all the people, those who came up and answered questions. And hopefully that one of our brothers was just missing the road. But that's the way, that is the nature of human beings. Sometimes when we don't understand issues, we always try to find out that who cut the tail of the fox. But anyway, that's the way how we go. So, Sister Pam, I'm ending here. I would like to appreciate all the viewers, and the viewers of the Voice of Kush here, those who are in the Facebook, because we are taking the Voice of Kush Wisdom from the Facebook, but we are using the clubhouse of South Sudan is not a cup of tea. We don't have Facebook right now for South Sudan is not a cup of tea. So thank you very much, brothers and sisters, and I will appreciate that next time, like what Emmanuel Ajawin was saying, Ambassador, that we should focus more about the root causes of the problem of South Sudan, so that each one of us should come and give his own opinions, what is going on in South Sudan, how we can resolve the problem of South Sudan. Sister Pam, I will let you also the mic, and then you can end the room when you finish your own opinions or your thought. But our apology for all the South Sudanese, but if was something that is important to resolve the problem of South Sudan, that we cannot apologize. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mujassir. First of all, I would like to give apologies to those who came last minute and said that they have questions. We're already concluding the room, therefore we cannot bring anyone up or read out your questions. Hopefully next time we open this room again, we will be having future discussion on the round table, so then you can bring your question then. I also would like to thank everyone who joined us today in South Sudan is not a cup of tea, including the audience and also the panelists. We greatly appreciate you, and we would like to apologize if anyone was offended anyhow. It was not our intention. If you were dropped down to the audience, it's simply because you are not following the rules of the room, or because your questions or your comments does not relate to our topic today. Also, I would like to say this to our people. Let's not shoot down any ideas that were brought up to bring resolution to our country. If you have questions, if you do not understand it, come up and ask questions, or always reach out to our leaders. Ask your question instead of just like right away shooting the ideas down or dismissing it or standing against it, because South Sudan cannot be saved if we don't all come together. So thank you once more for joining us today in South Sudan is Not a Cup of Tea. Until next time, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are listening or watching us from. Thank you, and I will end the room.
Je sais que le changement peut faire peur, mais à Andalasia, le plus difficile, c'est de réussir à trouver le grand amour. Et dans ce monde, tout est compliqué.
Si ce monde n'est pas à ton goût, tu n'as qu'à le changer.
Je souhaite.
Au dernier coup de